while. Okay, we are on the Tru-Mon show with Mr. Arthur and Fiona Cristian from Australia. A great, great honor for me tonight to have you guys on my Tru-Mon show. How are you, first of all, both of you?
All right.
Yeah, we're good.
Good.
Well.
It's yeah, it's an honor for me, Arthur and Fiona, to have you here, because I have been looking, like, it's not just recently that I came across your stuff because I talk about truth and all that. So I've been coming into contact with Jabba. I learned a lot with Jabba, and I also Jabba learned a lot from you. So it was meant to happen that we get together, for sure. I know that. But also, I knew about you a long time ago, like about 5, 6, 7 years ago. I think I came across your video on YouTube. But at that time, I was still a little bit, I was still unconscious. I think I'm still a little bit unconscious. I don't know if I'm totally waking up. Like I'm getting very mixed up with all the words recently because of what I've learned and what I've come to learn recently. So I try to balance everything in my head. But anyway, we're not going to be too technical with the words. Yeah?
I'm going to assure you the waking up is an arduous, long one. We are all down the yellow brick road, mate, because the layers of fantasy, because it is fantasy we're all dealing with here. Yeah. Believing that the fantasy is reality. And so the yellow brick road, you know, is very long, and we're the ones who not only created it, we're projecting our lives down it. So it's self-fulfilling. It's our own prophecy of our own making, put in our heads by everybody else to put that stuff in our heads. Yeah. And so I would assure you that from the work we've done, you know, and from everyone we've met up to this point, we've not yet met anyone in the system who's completely out of the fantasy yet. You know, we're still working through the layers of the fantasy that's trauma-based. And we keep discovering more and more about areas of our dark places that we've put to one side, you know, which is what we do with trauma.
I mean, and I would say that in terms of being conscious or waking up, you know, I always think if, say, fully conscious is a meter, I'm maybe down at 5 centimeters, you know, really that bad. And which means everyone else. And there's all these people out there with the new age and talking about consciousness, and they think they're conscious, and yet it's so many, and yet we're still, except for probably a very, very minute few people out there tucked away in the wilderness, most of us are causing immense harm day in, day out, just by everything we do when we get out of bed, go to work, do everything. And so how can we say we are conscious when we're still doing that? I mean, I like to think consciousness means awareness. And if you become fully aware of the harm that you're causing, then that's when you're conscious, and you can no longer do that harm. It's just like if you've got a child there and you decide to slap the child around, you know, if you're conscious at all, you realize what you're going to do to the child when you do that, so you don't do it. Now, there's no difference with the problems we cause when we get in our car and drive down the road. If we're fully conscious, we wouldn't be driving our cars. We wouldn't be living in these houses. We wouldn't be on this radio show.
Exactly. Just the very thing that we're here tonight is so nonsense. Just that is nonsense, because if the world will be running properly or according to our true nature, or go back to the source, call it whatever you want, if we would be according to what we should be, I would not be here with you tonight.
Exactly.
So just that is very traumatizing for me, but I deal with it.
So for any of us to claim that we're conscious at the moment, I think that shows we're completely still asleep.
Exactly. But we're waking up. The good point is we're waking up, and we're noticing the lies, and we're exposing the lies and speaking truth. I think it's very important. So just for maybe for the benefit of the viewers on my channel and the one that will see it, maybe you can just introduce yourself and give ourselves a little bit of background, where you come from and the work you have done and everything, because there might be people watching the shows that don't know profoundly Arthur and Fiona. Me, I know you. I went through your whole website, didn't read everything because there's a lot of stuff on there. I suggest to everyone that seek truth or something in life greater than what we've been told, go to Arthur and Fiona website. But anyway, I'm going to let you just maybe introduce yourself for the benefit of the viewers, so they can know a bit. Who is Arthur and Fiona?
we're a man of Earth. We're not from another galactic federation. We don't come from the stars in that way. You know, as terms of the system, Fiona came out of England. She popped out here, not far away from where we are now, in Kiama, when she was a little girl, and I popped out in Sydney. So I'm in the system of fiction of time. This man's 58, 59 now. Apparently, a couple of days ago. I don't practice birthdays. I don't worship that stuff anymore.
No, but hold on, I gotta interrupt you 2 seconds. I just thought of something. I saw it was your birthday, but I didn't wish you happy birthday because, like you, I'm not in time related and stuff. But my wife has the same birthday as you.
Well,
I was like, wow.
When it's part of the waking up, let's go back a bit to what talking about consciousness is about. Full responsibility. Now, full responsibility means that we recognize fantasy for what it is, right? And we don't give it our energy, believing that there's something there for us. So yeah, we're compromising the system because the system is fantasy, and everything of the system is fantasy, and it's an illusion, making us all delusional. So we've grown up believing in the tooth fairy and the fiction of the God in the Bible, and basically everything explained to us. So in those of you who want to explore our work, maybe we don't want to go through heaps of what we've already covered before. There's stuff in the loveforlife.com.au website that people can explore. But for me, the opportunity to talk to you today and to help answer some of your questions is that we're just everyday people who've been dissatisfied with our own lives. We've been up and down emotionally, coming from anger, rage. For this man, depression, anger, rage, always looking over the fence at greener pastures, never seem to be comfortable in the body, etc. And there's many of those things that we're all been inflicted with. I've been through drugs. I took drugs when I was very young. I left it when I was 21. I've explored from age of 14, 15 up until 21. I got lost in the Theosophical Society and bought many hundreds of books about just about everything that's become traditional mainstream now. I got involved in Finhorn and explored what was the beginnings of New Age for me, comprehending New Age, and then left it all. Then I got into Stein education. In amongst all this, I was involved in permaculture back in the late 70s, sort of, and I was involved in Steiner education for 4 or 5 years, in curative therapy as a volunteer. We worked full time with handicapped children, and by the time of 1986, I got into business and became a businessman, and really lost my way. And we found that we need to. Sorry, we got interrupted here. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
There's no problem. It's not.
Please go. Sorry, man. I'm still waking up, so my brain is just frazzled at the moment. But what I was trying to say is
business.
I got into business, and then from business, we experienced the fraud and discovered from about 1996 to 2005, we started reading lots of books about the system and what the system is, based on old books that normally couldn't find, and that we found and gathered books because we had money. We were buying all kinds of things and used to go. And we met David Icke in '96 and all that stuff. So come 2005, we were going through tax fraud and then bank fraud, and this led us to the Love for Life work because we realized that there was no community immunity, and that there was that we were all lambs to the slaughter, and no matter how much we believed in what we thought we had, we realized the fantasy was so deep in us, especially in this man. I realized how effed up I had been and still have been for a long time. I'm not in denial of any of these things, but what came up was this fight, not a fight as in war, but a fight to get to the bottom of this, to find out why are we like this? How do we become like this? So our marriage from 97, we met 96, we got together 97. Her background which Fee should talk about. I shouldn't talk for her, but we somehow came to this through the fraud, and everything we were working for was being stolen from us. Family home, cash flow businesses, all that can be explored on the website. People want to find them. But out of
there's a lot of stuff that can be explored on your website for sure about everything you have said. Like if we want to maybe have a starting point in our discussion tonight, I would like to start talking about I call it the Babylon system, the system. But maybe you can tell me if I'm right by calling it the Babylon system. Maybe I was totally wrong with that assumption too, because it's something that I've been told. So it's just something that I repeat, but for sure there is a system to know Babylon or anything. Maybe you can also, because the point of having you here is because I want to learn stuff. You know, I don't know everything and I want to learn. And I decided to do those show live for me to learn and people to learn at the same time.
Well,
so it's just
things to point out here. One is that we want to reinforce, and we may say this a few times, that we don't want anyone to believe anything we say.
Yeah.
What we share in the work, much of the work we do has not come from the books we've read, has not come from the tongues of other men and women. It's come from using sense and scrutiny. So what Fiona and what we both had done is that when we discovered ourselves in the mess of the loss of the family home and fighting for survival at the time, realizing we were trauma-based, we made a decision to go outside the box of the system, meaning we no longer relied on the thoughts in our heads anymore. We didn't realize we were doing it then, but we stopped believing in everything that was in our heads. In doing that, we actually started arguing a lot between us and used scrutiny, and we dropped our lawyers, we dropped everything to do with the system to deal with this fraud. And in doing that, we started to experience a shift in consciousness. Now, consciousness, we're talking about a shift from fantasy to reality, a shift from third-party representation to first party. We started to realize that the truth was always in first party and not in third party. So we got to see that a man who comes forward, you know, man could be man, woman, child. So when we talk about man, we're talking generally man, right, who's acting in third party, claiming that what they're acting in third party is first party. We would point that out to them and then ask them, we would realize that it's all bullshit, because, you know, the bank is not in first party. The bank can't come forward and talk to us in first party because it's a fiction, you know. So the same with the Bible, the same with ABC 1, 2, 3 and all the constructs and concepts that come out of everything that we've been brainwashed into, that is the system, because the system is the stuff. It is belief in fantasy. So if for an example of a practice of that is, which we say a lot in our work, is that if you take a child to nature and you say, oh, that over there's a daffodil and it's yellow, and then you provide a scientific explanation about that, we are now acting a third party representing that life form that we now call a daffodil, and we're committing fraud, because we're actually saying to the innocent child, hey, believe us, we are the authorized representative representing the information of that life form. But that life form never ever came forward to the child, first party to first party, and say, yes, I am the daffodil, yes, I am yellow, and yes, this scientific information is coming from me and I'm the one who created it all, right? What it has happened is that it's come from me because I'm acting as a liar, because that's what a third party representative is. We are lying, committing fraud, claiming that information to be true. Now, the whole of the system is this. And what we discovered through our challenging the system, challenging everything, we discovered this and began to pave our way through using sense to realize what was nonsense, because nonsense was the representation of fantasy that we believed to be true. And sense is through direct sensory experience, where we sense.
That's why they call it sense, because you sense it.
Right, yeah, exactly. So it's not part of the con of consciousness, the con psios, you know, the psi of psychiatry and psychedelia and psychopathic and the psi, which is the s of the snake. We won't get into this now, but this.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I love that. I love that stuff. Yeah.
Because the consciousness is not the one that was explained to us. So if someone explained to us what freedom is, or what consciousness is, or what truth is, or what reality is, that's actually a lie, because it isn't our consciousness. It's an idea put in our head about a consciousness, an idea about a consciousness, or an idea about a freedom. So the whole of the system is this. The world of explanation, instruction, education, suggestion forms the system. So we are unconscious, flowing in the rivers of what we believe to be true. And out of that comes all the religions, all the occults, all the esoterics, all the education, all the careers and titles and everything, all the standings, the race, culture, creed of the system comes out of this. All of it is fake, all of it is fraud. Because the fact is we're man. Now, when we're brought up by nature, the heart of this is that it was meant to be, from what we've discovered, that a man was supposed to be raised by nature, not by another man. We're supposed to be caretakers for man, custodians for man, so that man will have the direct experience with nature to form their dreams. You see, thoughts are dreams, right? When we create dreams directly from nature, by the stimulation, the sensations of nature inspiring us, we form dreams of the living man, because it's a living dream. Now there is our soul. And from there we expand the soul, and because it's a unique original dream that we are creating. But when another man gets inside, we use the analogy of our heads, and starts explaining, we have been trained to give up creating our dream. And in doing that, we're not creating a soul. And when we don't have a soul, we're unconscious. And when we're unconscious, we don't have freedom. We only have the idea of freedom. Yeah. And the Freemasons are trained in doing this. This is brilliantly done. And it goes right back to Egypt, because Egypt is the system. And so what we've discovered in all these years is that we have amongst us all liars committing fraud under the guise that what they're claiming to be true, right? And we stupidly believe in it. So we raise up from the dead, we raise up from fantasy the illusion of reality. And so we use concrete, plastic, steel, telecommunications, the printing press, the industrial revolution, the technological revolutions. We've made up all these things, and we created the evolution of the lie and raised it all up. Now this is baby long.
We blow their bubble. We blow their bubble too with all that.
We did it because we're each doing it. So that's baby long. You know, thanks to those guys who pointed this out to us last year, that word, because it didn't click till we heard about it from what Romley Stewart and those guys have brought this up. It truly is baby long, because a baby long is a ward of the state. A ward of the state is a dumbed down, stupid human, a type of a man, because that man is educated into the fiction, into the fantasy of what the system is, believing it is to be true. So we are wards of the state, lost like the assimilation to the Borg in Star Trek, and we walk around as drones and robots, projecting a life. The yellow brick road, we are paving it as we believe it, we're creating it. So it's self-fulfilling. It is a prophecy of our own making to the clock, which is a fantasy. And everything of the system has been raised up, just like a child who's read a story of Alice in Wonderland, and you read it to the child over and over again, and they'll start turning the bedroom furniture and the dolls and everything the child has into the settings of Wonderland, and begin to perform the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, and everything is a wonder land. Now we are in Wonderland, the system, or the fantasy land of the system, because we believe the shit that's been put in our heads by everyone who's explained, instructed, educated, suggested these lies to us from so young, right?
Because they know the kind of vibration it's going to project in the field also. They know that. So they know just by our thoughts, we create a lot of the reality. So they know the more we're going to think about their stuff also, that's what we're projecting at one point.
Exactly, because see, what we do, we raise up from the dead, the fantasy. We give our life force energy to the thoughts. Because thoughts, imagine, think of a thought as a bubble. And the information of that thought needs our life force energy directed inside that bubble of that thought, so that the thought can rise up like a bubble, right? Now that's the bank coming out of nowhere. That's the money, the currency, the economy, the constitution, the laws, the statutes, the Strawman,
the satanic rituals.
all this is the raising out of the pentagram. This is raising because the pentagram is a man. If you look at the pentagram, it's a man used to form the fantasy world out of. So we have been converted into a type of a man to serve the agenda of those who dreamt that information for us to dream, so we would create the world, right? So if we can get, the way Freemasons look at it is that if we can get our victims or our targets to believe what we want them to believe, meaning let's get them to think what we want them to think and get them to set their life force energy into motion, into those thoughts. We'll get them to create that world the way we want them to dream it. So they create dreams for us. We fall into those dreams, and those are the bubbles of thoughts that we raise up out of the dead. This is the living dead. And in doing it, we become those slaves, because now we are performing everything for these ideas, because they're fiction, they're dead. The bank can't walk, talk, think, feel, poo, we negotiate contract. Alice in Wonderland can't do it. ABC 123 can't do it. Money can't do it. So everything of the system that's in third party is this fraud, is this lie. And we are so conditioned to believe in these lies that we have formed the wonderland of the system. And we call them motor cars, trains and planes. But there's no consciousness in the plane. There's no consciousness in the books. There's no consciousness. Look, even in this telecommunication and this video right now, there's no consciousness. It's just we representing it in third party. We're acting for the telecommunication. We're acting for the internet. We're acting for the name that we were given. But the name is a fiction. The name on the birth certificate is not us. We believe that it is us. And so we form this identity, the all-seeing I, because all-seeing is the one who raises up from the dead.
What about the I am? Because that's what Jabba keeps telling me, that the I am is the all-seeing I. Said that I come with this.
The child who believes that they are Alice during the performance is I am. The child who believes in the information that forms the character of Alice is I am. Because he, doesn't matter, believes in Alice. You have to believe in it to perform it. So that is I am. I am Alice. I am projecting my life force energy into the character and costume that forms Alice, and now I'm performing as Alice. I am the police officer, Jack Smith. I am the politician, Joe Blow. I am the Galactic Federation channeler. I am. This is a satanic practice in the craft of it in practice. The whole of this lie is in third party. So it's very easy to work out what is nonsense, because see, Alice is nonsense. You can't sense Alice. You can't sense the bank because it is a fiction. You can't touch, taste, feel, smell, hear, see the bank or the Parliament House or money or whatever. It doesn't matter, whatever the system. You can't sense ABC 123, etc., because they don't exist. All you have is a third party man, the I am, coming forward, acting on behalf of Alice or the bank, right? So there's no bank there in first party because it doesn't exist. It's fantasy, it's fiction. Now this is the Matrix, but the Matrix, as everyone knows, is an illusion. But reality is not an illusion.
Do you think we can? Excuse me. Do you think we can call it more a Patrix? I've been calling it a Patrix for a while because we are in a patriarchal system, so I call it a Patrix. Do you think it's more appropriate? What's your thought on that?
Whether it's matriarchal, patriarch, it's all bullshit.
Yeah, I know, but
no left or right. There's no up or down. There's no big or tall or strong. There's no within or without. All these are constructs and concepts to project ideas that we raise up as to form the language of this communication.
Yeah.
And I think our biggest delusion with everyone, all of us under the system, is that the thoughts we think that we think are our own thoughts, because I mean they tell us that as well. What do you think? But they don't tell us that they've actually been feeding everything that goes into our heads anyway. So that's our biggest delusion, is that we think, or they tell us that what we're thinking is our thoughts, but it's actually not. It's all been spoon-fed to us. And again, this is part of the waking up to the ego, it's a big blow for the ego to realize that basically very, very little, if any, of what we're thinking actually comes from our uniqueness and our originality, because we haven't been given that opportunity to form that unique and original man. So they just give us so much choice in the system, so much choice of thought and ideas and philosophy, that we think, oh yes, well, I choose this, I choose that, I choose that, and that makes me different from him next door who chooses this, this, and this. But they're all just little particles of the same thing, you know. It's little different toys in the sand pit, as Arthur always likes to talk about that. Which toys do you want to choose, children? But they're all the toys. That's all we've got to choose.
Let's stay here, because this is, to me, if we take advantage of this 2-hour video chat, let's for us, we should stay here and focus on all this, because if this can be then gifted to others who watch it and they can make sense of what's happening here, then the door opens for everything for them. Because the thing is that every thought in our head is not us. The thoughts in our head do not belong to us, because they're not ours. They have been implanted into us through education, instruction, explanation, suggestion. See, thoughts, you've got to get back to this. Thoughts are dreams. These dreams are not our dreams. We did not create these dreams uniquely from direct inspiration, which forms our soul. So when we form our soul, and no one can tell us what that is, and no one can tell us how to do it that way, because we are supposed to be an original man. An original man is not tampered with. It cannot be defined. There's no way to define a man that way. All you can do is allow a child to be raised up by nature, because nature is the living dream of man's song of life, where the creation of everything that man dreamt in its original purpose is there. So the whole dream is to create. Put it this way: it's like we are artists to the painting, to the artist to the canvas. Nature is the canvas, and every man that was created was given a paintbrush and the palette of paint, and paint the dream of their life, which is adding to the painting of the whole of creation. But there's a big difference here. What we are painting is life forms. A man would paint the bird and watch the bird fly, given it purpose. The man would paint the trees, the mountains, and create that and fly. It's a living creation, because we are living creators. But through this lie, we have fallen into this state of unconsciousness, where we believe that we are creating fiction now, and believing that's the standards, that's the progress of civilization. That's the greatest achievement as man, is to create these fictions in third party, and believing that's defines us, right? Well, this is all bullshit. So going back to what we said earlier, your listeners, your viewers, don't believe anything we say here. Believe nothing that we are saying. Instead, use scrutiny. Use scrutiny. Think of everything we're saying, sentence by sentence, and make sense of what we're saying. Because you've got to use your own brain, unique to you, to make sense. Because if you can't, you will not be able to unravel the lies that are the thoughts bouncing to and fro between your ears that forms the ego. Because the E-go is the collection house of all the thoughts put in to our head, housed in this fictional persona, this phantom demon, and we claim that is who we are. And that's our Alice, all right? And we run around claiming this is who we are. But it's all formed by everybody who educated us, who were got at by the Freemasons, going right back through all the generations when this satanic nonsense craft began. So what we're saying is that every thought in your head, and we're talking about ABC 1, 2, 3 thoughts, or any constructs or concepts that come from ABC 1, 2, 3, or any read and write alphabet language, doesn't matter what the tongue is. If it has mathematic-based meanings, because all alphabets come from mathematics and geometry, it is satanic in origin, because they are measurements. Their measurements define dimensions, levels, planes, distance, time and space. All this is make-believe, fantasy. Out of this occults and esoterics comes astrology, numerology, astrotheology. Out of it comes the weights and measurements of commerce, of fictional values, of quantities of boxes, and the commercial values and of all that commerciality. See, because the whole system is a commercial, as in watching a commercial on TV. And you're watching an advertisement, you're advertising the commercial, right? And we animate the commercial. Now, the commercial is the ego. We animate the ego because we believe in the commercial. And so we walk around as the advertisement of the commercial we animate. And we believe that's who we are. And we say, hi, I'm Arthur Cristian. I'm a Greek and I'm a businessman. And and I make 200,000 a year income. And I'm conscious because I listen to the Dalai Lama and I practice my Buddhic mantric positions and I cross my legs. And
I recycle.
And I recycle and I'm environmentally friendly. And etc. But this is true. This is the reality of it. So what I'm trying to point out to you, the ego, the E-go, is compelling emotion. E-motion, E-go is the intent of those who dreamt for us to be in their image, so that I am performing the instructions of the images they put in our heads. The thoughts, ideas, instructions, explanations, suggestion, education. See, this is why we all got educated. So we would form
the education is the training of animals or something like that.
All that. Exactly. That's what we are. We train. And then we set it into motion. We set this construct, this fictional persona into motion, just like a child who forms the fiction of Alice and then raises up Alice out of fantasy and directs the life force energy into Alice so that Alice can be dressed up. Little Mary is the child, dresses up as Alice and acts as Alice, believing that Alice to be real and that Alice is in first party, right? So that is emotion. We are setting into motion the lie, believing that that idea is true. Now, the whole of the system is this. Everyone's getting into cars, waking up to the clocks, following all the rules and regulations, ritual procedures, conditions, contracts, lifestyles, race, culture, creeds, you name it. It's all nonsense. It's all brainwashing. It's absolute bullshit. But
I totally agree with you. I knew from a young age that the whole thing was bullshit, but I found out only why. Also, it took me a tragedy in my life to wake up. Why do we need that? Why do we need tragedy in our life to start scrutinizing stuff and looking at the truth and the lies? And I don't know, but it's we're so deeply programmed. I think that's what but the program can be undone very fast also. I'm sure you can agree with me on that.
You've got to make sense to do it. Otherwise we're lying. Most people think they're waking up, are not really waking up. They're still trapped. You see, the whole system, look at this, let's go back to a stage play.
Yeah.
We have to set up, we have to build a stage. Then we have to create the props and we have to create the background. Now the background, we might paint a big canvas, then create a scenery of nature in the background. And then comes the men who come as the actors in costumes and titles, performing with the props on the stage. Now the background is ABC 1, 2, 3. All the constructs and concepts of every thought in our head. The background is what we rely on to draw the fantasy of consciousness, to draw the fantasy of freedom, to raise up from the dead the illusion of truth and claim it to be true. Because we are so utterly brainwashed for so long that we haven't been able to yet step outside of the matrix of the background of all the conditioning of our education to realize that none of it's going to set us free or tell us the truth, because it's all part of the illusion of the matrix of the system that we're enslaved to. So if you rely on the background, forget the foreground while we're acting in costume and title, like us now talking here, we are in the foreground in third party talking to you. But the background behind us is ABC 1, 2, 3. It's called English. And the language defines this illusion. And we somehow think that if we fall into the background to find the truth of our consciousness, we'll be able to set into motion this consciousness in first party and say, hi, I'm conscious. I am the truth. And we're fucking lying when we do that. Totally fucking lying when we do this. Right? So this is really important. Apologies. What we're really doing here is that we haven't yet used our sense, our true sense, touch, taste, feel, smell, hear, see. It's not the thoughts in your head. The thoughts are not sense, right? To make sense, you've got to make sense. You've got to use your sense to rat out the nonsense. Because in the system, those who are behind it, who crafted it, because it's man-made, they get all the power from all those who believe in the system. And if that lie wears thin, they come up with another version and direct all the sheep from one herd, one enclosure to another. Now, this is what David Icke does. This is what Michael Tellinger does. This is what all the whole Freeman sovereignty movement does. This is what all the people into the gifting movement now doing. Because you've got to watch out for the system. Because everybody who is listening to these people, the Pied Pipers, they've all made their bed in the system. They all come from the background of the ABC 123 brainwashing is what they're all relying on to shape a new reality out of. So David Icke made his bed in the system. So everything he talks about defaults to the system, to the background of the system. So Mark Pazio, Michael Tellinger, Jordan Maxwell, right? Look, there's thousands of them. They are forming another version of reality, relying on the background of all the education we were given that explained us what consciousness was. Thank you to Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, Oprah Winfrey, all the New Age books that have been coming and going for the last 50 years or 100 years. All these thoughts are in our head. It forms the background. And we're relying on this background to form the new motion of a new man out of it. And we're going to create who we are. And this is a lie. And this is a trap. This is how they're going to make the new world order. And if people don't see it and make sense of this, they will be deceived. So that's why we say to everyone, do not believe anything we're saying, because you've got to make sense. You've got to create your unique original dreams so that you can create your real life. We cannot do this over the internet. You cannot do it listening to us. You cannot do it talking about anything with ABC, because each of us has the ability to make sense. And it cannot be the thoughts we put in your head that you're listening to us through this interview. What we are saying is, if you sense our intention, we're saying, brother, sister, fucking wake up.
That's it. That's it. Fucking wake up. And
wake up. Get out of this fucking deep sleep, because that's what we're doing. We're still waking up. Now, I use these F words because it's the only word in this language that describes the truth of this ugliness, this despicable, intentional behavior, right? The purity and the sincerity of man has been desecrated. We worship this desecration because it is fantasy, and we wrap it all up in these beautiful things. We call it lollies with shiny wrappers, and it's got poison inside it. And we think it's a little bit of harm is okay, because that child asked us the right to have that. Oh, it's okay. That smiling banking commercial where they're shaking hands with their victim mortgagee customers and that, right? But it's a lie. The politicians kissing the baby. You know, the people out there talking about consciousness and freedom, because that explained consciousness freedom is not the listeners. It's the one we put into their head that keeps them imprisoned in the matrix of the ABC 123 background that was formulating their fictional life, their fictional version of reality. See, the true freedom is the background of nature itself, without another man inside a child's head. And that's the difference, right? And this is the Achilles heel of all the Freemasons. There's another one. I'm going to say it here now. This guy called Frederick Maloof we came across a couple of days. He's a
I saw the video. I saw the video you gave me, and I watched the whole thing. And
Frederick, you're a lying cunt. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that right. You're a lying cunt. You're tricking and deceiving people about your gifting program. It's not. What you're relying on is all these dumbed down slaves, stupid. We're going to somehow create a gifting program, but they're all coming from the responsibilities of the system that they have to uphold, because it's conditional acceptance. We will gift bits and pieces of what we give to create a better world, but it's to the system, and the Freemasons provide all the administration to this. This is Star Wars, Star Trek. This is the Federation behind Star Trek. You know, this is the real thing. I'm using foul language, guy, because they are foul. They're sick. They're nasty scum. They're pieces of shit. And they are fucking with your life. They're fucking with everybody. And people don't wake up. I'm not the one who's causing this problem by swearing like this and speaking like this. I'm just pointing out the ugliness of this fucking sick people. It's so people so dumbed down and stupid who can't see this. Right? So if you sense our intention, we're here to not harm you. We're here to wake you up. If it means a baseball bat smashing over your fucking head, wake up. Pull out of this shit. Because that's what's happening here.
Because what's happening as well is that power of creation that Arthur talked about as living creators, where we could create everything of nature. that's what they use against us. But at the same time, they've brainwashed us into thinking that we have no power, that we're useless. But they know full well that we are the ones with the power. So they just manipulate us into using our power of creation to create whatever they want. And that's where they've got us, because they just using, without us, they can't do anything without our power of creation to put everything they want into the thing. And talking about the scrutiny, I mean, when we went back to when we started really waking up with the bank fraud and stuff, it was there were so many rabbit holes to fall into, which is exactly what all these things are offering with Ubuntu and the gifting and all this thing. They're all the rabbit holes that are there for those who want something different and realize there's something wrong with the system. These are the rabbit holes, and the way we avoided falling into the rabbit holes was using that scrutiny, because when we started losing everything, we were just like, we get lots of phone calls, lots of emails, oh, I'm losing my house, this is happening, this is happening. Now, we were the same when we were losing the house. We were trying to find who's that there, who's got some information, who can help us, ringing people, talking to. But what happened was, and particularly Arthur in this, he was so good at using is that we'd be like, oh yes, this is interesting, but then we'd come up against something and Arthur was saying, you know what, that's not right. So, and it was that instinct of his that prevented us falling into a rabbit hole and being lost in it for the next 10 years, i.e. whether it was a legal one or something else, because we'd then move on from that and take what was good, what was useful from there, but move on to the next thing. And we'd be like, oh yeah, this is it. But no, there's another thing that just doesn't make sense. If you're clear thinking and you're going to use that scrutiny, and this is the biggest problem with most people staying asleep, is they're not prepared to really question their beliefs to the point that they'll question everything. They measure things against their beliefs rather than measuring what they think against everything that comes to them and everything they observe and see. And we all know it's so easy to make everything we see around us and everything that happens to us day to day, to make it fit what we believe. It is so easy to do that. Just, you know, the simple example of watching children, and we have a lot of those around at the moment, but you know how you can, if you believe something about someone, oh, he's not a very nice man, then every time that person speaks or does something, you're looking for evidence to prove that. Oh, but you see, he said that, and he said this, and he said this, and that proves that what I'm saying is right. When it's also just as easy to say, oh, look, he's a good man because he does this, and he does this, and he does this. And this is how we all have learned to operate. We get a fixed idea in our head from somebody else, and then we just look for the evidence to prove that to ourselves. And it is very easy.
Yeah, self-fulfilling.
Yeah, and that's what makes it the self-fulfilling, because then we are creating, and if we think that's a bad man, and we treat him accordingly, then what do we create in our lives? Of course, he's not going to behave well to us. If we're projecting all that upon him, he's going to give us exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, because see, the system is trauma-based.
Yeah.
These methods are like cul-de-sacs of comfort. It's like giving us protection from the storm of the trauma, but it's bloody an illusion. And so we have all these people trapped in all these cul-de-sacs, all these little, we're on the highway of life and we veer off inside these cul-de-sacs and we park our car there just for a moment's break, you know. But, and then we have to hop back in and put our toes into the water and continue on. The thing is, it's so sinister that the people behind this, they're blatantly doing it intentionally to fuck you over. And they don't give you full disclosure of their intent, of their motive. That's why I used that C word before. That's why I swear, because it is that evil. It is so sinister that if we don't snap up and wake up, snap out of this trauma. If you don't snap out of it, these anesthetics, these psychological, psychotic forms of cul-de-sacs that are anesthetics that keep us shut down and sedated, we will still be in the trauma state of fantasy, believing the explanation that gave us comfort to some horror that we're experiencing. Look, another way to look at it, which we mentioned in the OPPT videos, part 1, Cambodia is a classic example of this, where we had villages all through Cambodia living in nature peacefully for a long time. Even when the French came and the Dutch, they were living peacefully. Then came Pol Pot, CIA-funded Pol Pot, went in and devastated all the villages, or much of whatever happened in Cambodia. And the elderly, family members were executed, impaled and put up on posts, heads taken off, arms taken off, whatever. all down these roads, pathways from the village to where they had to get their water and where they had to get their food. So the horror of the intent for everyone who still wanted to live, they've got to walk down past this. Oh my God, I knew them. I knew them. I remember them. I remember them. And every day, the reminder of what was done to them, to their village life, is there. Now, this is exactly the same thing with poisoning the oceans, destroying the mountains. You know,
the war calendar is the same thing. The war calendar we had.
Everywhere in life in the system is this horror played out by the bad guys of Freemasons. And the good guys come along to provide some kind of comfort, some kind of remedial to this trauma. But the people are walking like this down. I've got to still live. I still need shelter. I still need food. I still need water. I'm still on the land. But I have this oppressor, these oppressors, because they are now controlling my life on the land that I stand. And so what we now have is this psychological manipulation. And this is what Frederick Maloof relies on. This is what David Icke, Michael Talmadge, they rely on everyone so utterly fucking brainwashed to manipulate them into another version of the system that gives relief to this nightmare. But it's still the system under another guise that requires administration. And the new world order is a cashless economy. It's a gifting economy, but it's based on tithing. It's based on quota. And you will be answerable to administrators to make sure that your contribution to the Federation is such, and you will be a slave to that, and all your children will be a slave to that, because you still don't have your dream. You know why? Because you're still educated. You're an educated slave. The background to all this to unfold has come from all those years of absolute brainwashing, all those thoughts in your head, all that trauma of the Pol Pot, right? And then comes the good guys. The CIA-funded Americans come in to rescue all the Cambodians from the Cambodians who horrified Cambodia. And then they brought education in, schools. And all these village people that lived in village life were suddenly rescued and brought into this education, and now they're becoming part of this Western world and the progress. They've all been deceived. This is what Michael Talmadge does. This is exactly what they do to you, to everyone. Because, see, we're all supposed to be uniquely brought up by nature without another man in your life, another man telling you who you are, what you're part of. No one can define that for you. And this desecration is unconsciousness, and it's fantasy, and those comfort areas where we seek fantasy. Oh yes, I have alcohol, that gives me relief from that trauma. I'll go and gamble to give me relief from this trauma. I will go and have some sex and go and watch some pornography. I'll go in fashion, I'll dress myself and make myself look better. I'll go and listen to The Secret to improve my ability to manifest materiality, to make my life better, make myself feel worth better. This is all the ego, the emotion, the compelling program of the phantom of the man we believe that we are in the wonderland. And we think that's who we are. And we think there's no other way to be.
Well, as is the programs of the Michael Talmadges and stuff, because it's all still looking for a fix to our trauma. It's still not, it's like, okay, I'm waking up. I can see that things are wrong. Now, who's going to fix it for me? Who's got a good idea out there? He's talking about something interesting, maybe he'll tell me. And they're not realizing that that's no different from still being under the control of the government and all that sort of stuff. We're still looking to someone else to answer the problems, and that is still the Pol Pot trauma acting on, is that we're too scared to say, you know what, I don't need anybody to tell me how I can do it. Like the whole gifting thing, I hate it. It's gifting with a capital G. If you want to give, you just give.
Without no one telling you.
There's no system to that. You just give because that's coming from your heart.
Yeah.
And if you're not gifting from the heart freely, you're not gifting. You're fulfilling a quota. You're performing a sort of, oh, it's my gifting this week. Okay, I have to gift this and this and this, and that's my gifting. I'm sorry, that is not a gift, because there's no inspiration from your heart to give freely to another man or woman without asking anything in return. Just as when your food forest is booming and you've taken all the apples you need, you put all the other apples in a box and say, here, who needs apples? I've got 5 boxes free. Now, there's no condition. There's nothing. You cannot use them. They're surplus. You give them.
And no one even told you to do it.
Exactly.
Because you're not obliged. You see, we're supposed to be unique and original. So Michael Tellinger, up your ass. All these people, up your ass. The Venus Project, up your ass. Because this is the shit. You guys are all of you trapped in this. Watch out, because this is the New World Order. It's not, the New World Order is not all the current chaos, not the Pol Pot and all the massacre. The New World Order is the remedy to all this, brought in by the good guys to give you relief to this, because they're reliant on the trauma for you to accept the remedy they're going to offer you to minimize this trauma. But the trauma never really goes away because you've still been educated. You should look, put it this way: these people were the original people, the Freemasons were on the ships, the unidentified floating objects that came across the oceans of the seas to all the lands of man that were free of this shit, right? They brought with them the prophecy, the plan, the business plan of this indoctrination. They knew that they had to get all their victims to believe in the information that was in their books and in their rituals, because if they can get them to believe in it, they will set into motion and form the fantasy world out of their books, which they called the Bible, because they wrote the Bible. They're the only ones who can read and write to do all this shit. You see, so they forecasted. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we don't want people to become the prophecy what we're saying either. We're not here to be followed. The truth is no one. You see, there's no savior because we've got free will. There's no Messiah. There's no one to rescue you because you've got to be responsible and accountable for your life. And the only way you do it is to make sense, to get out of this nonsense of all this trauma. So you're accountable for everything. What Fiona was pointing out with Michael Tellinger and that is that the slaves, those like the Cambodians who were, that what remained, the children, the innocent children that were witnessing all the remains of all their village people and their families and brothers and sisters that are left on these hanging things, you know, dead bodies down the side of roads and all this stuff. That trauma is relied on to form Ubuntu. That's relied on to form the gifting system, the gifting economy, right? So to wake up, you've got to get outside of all of this, which goes back to what we said earlier. Something happened with us and we just stepped right outside the box of all of this. And we started to use scrutiny to make sense of everything. And in making sense, we started to become conscious of the fantasy of the lie. See, there's no real shift in consciousness going on. There's no astrology as such or positions of the stars and that that's forming the new dawn of Aquarius. This is all prophecy. It's all bullshit, man-made. Because we're the only first party to all life experience. Only man is first party to all experience. Even man coming forward in first party, acting in third party is still man. Everything's to man. All life experience to man, you know. Bring forward an experience without man being a party to that experience. Impossible to do. We are all creating it. And what we're getting at is that we create these wonderlands through our dreaming because the thoughts are put in our heads to create these dreams. And these dreams are then provided with administration because the Freemasons need to provide order because every man is dreaming this fantasy, which is chaos. Because when we dream these lies, we are in a state of chaos because we're not normal. We're abnormal. We're abnormal. We're abnormal and aboriginal, you know, aboriginal. That's what we are. We're abnormal. So we're wards of the state. We are human, hue, the color, the type, the shade. We are really, if you really look at it, the moon, the illumination of the moon, the light of the moon is the explanation in our head, and we project this illumination because behind the illumination is the intent of those who put those thoughts in our heads in the first place because they had a motive to control us. So the moon is the illumination. Now, the light doesn't come from the moon. The moon is just a reflection of the light. Now, whether it's coming from the sun or it doesn't matter. That light is not coming from the moon because we see the dark side of the moon and we see the phases where the moon is not reflecting light. Now, we know that the moon has a dark side because behind this illuminated light, there's a dark side. Now, the dark side and the illumination is what the Freemasons worship. This illumination is Lucifer. It's satanic because it's the daffodil is yellow that you put in an innocent child's head. It's the wonderland that you put in children's heads to get them to illuminate, to set into motion, to magnify, to expand the fantasy of those ideas. So they perform the ritual, raising up the fantasy out of nowhere into a make-believe reality. The moon is this illumination. But behind the intent of those thoughts is the motive to control the victims under the illumination. You see, this is what the moon is. And this is, because all the stars are all the souls of all the men who remembered who they really were, who lived those glorious lives. And the clusters are the soul groups, the tribes of men. There is no science out there. Even, look, we're jumping here a bit.
No, go ahead. I'm into it. I have tons of questions about the moon and everything, but I'll let you talk for now.
Even the meteors and the asteroids and all that are the remains coming back to Earth after we devastated the Earth and exploded. All that explosion that became the firmament that collapsed, the water coming out of Earth and the water coming down, that we collapsed and decimated so much of Earth around 1,200 years of sunrise and sunsets ago. It wasn't 2,000 years. They made up 1,000 years in all this bullshit, but we won't go into all this today. But the point is that the stars we see out there, right, is what was explained to us. So what you see with your eyes, what you sense with your eyes is true, but everything explained to you about what you see is not true. So what you got to make sense of is that we don't look through the eyes of science or quantum physics or light years or measurements. Anything to do with measurements, dimensions, levels, planes, time is a construct, a concept coming from the background of the brainwashing we were put through when we were educated to repeat ABC 1, 2, 3 over and over again from so young. Because from that form, the constructs and concepts of this language where we're communicating measurements. Because the Freemasons' compass and square is measurements. Levels, scales, you know, you name it, we talk about this, right? Now, the illumination of the moon is that, is this explanation, third-party explanation. And the light is the fantasy of every man who believes this light. So they worship Lucifer, you know, in terms of the Christian sense. They worship this illumination. So that's what government is, constitution, the founding fathers of all the civilization. Everyone worships this illumination because it's a fantasy that formed the civilizations of this lie. And everyone's falling into the motion. They're all the robots and slaves who work. They wake up to the clock. They go to work to make money, to pay their taxes, and to get a roof over their heads, and all that. This is illumination, right? The Michael Tellingers and all these other people, David Icke and all that, they are practicing illumination. They want you to believe in the images they are projecting to you. When David Icke says to you, you've got to work with your heart, this heart is the background of all the brainwashing, because the man doesn't have a heart that way. You can't think a heart. You can't think a soul. You've got to create a living dream, which is not going to come out of what they're explaining to you. It can't come out of the illumination. It comes out of your direct sensory experience with nature that you create uniquely. And no one can be in your head for you to do it. It's impossible. And this is why man has fallen. We've fallen to the darkness, the dark side of the moon, the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. The dark side of the moon is the motive, the intent for the illumination. Educated to every, so when they came across the waters on their UFOs, unidentified floating objects, they came with illumination. And when they arrived on the shores of all these tribes of man on land, like these aboriginals, and they spoke in Latin or French or Greek back then, it went right over their heads because it was gobbledygook Martian talk, because it was UFO talk. The aliens, there's an alien reality. It's a fantasy. So these aboriginals have to be indoctrinated, brainwashed through education, right? But the Pol Pot methods were done to most of these aboriginals because they created decimation and war and trauma. And so this is why we have young aboriginals today who are on the booze and drunk, because they've been devastated. Their lives on the land as the true living free man soul has been destroyed. And they believe they're powerless, and they are those ones that are walking, I've got to get my water. I've got to get a drink every day down through Cambodia. I still have to live. I've somehow got to survive. I've got to get up. The clock's ringing. I've got to go to work. Oh my God, I've got to pay my bills. And then comes the relief. Oh, Friday, thank God, I've got a weekend. Sunday, oh, I hate Sunday because Monday's coming. I've got to do it again. And so this whole fucking trauma. And it comes in 1,001 ways, this shit, right? Well, this is illumination in practice. And behind it is the intent of those who crafted this illumination. The moon, the moment this life started, it appeared. Because everything is man's stream of light. Everything we're experiencing is man's stream of light. If we're allowed to create our unique original dreams, we will not have a moon as we know it. The moon has no place to do with the tides or anything. This is all bullshit. The only tides is the pulling and toing and froing of the trauma. I've got to go to work to make money. I've got to pay my mortgage. I've got to go to do this. I've got to do that. You know, I've got to. And this is the emotion, the ego of the fiction. We believe that we are. That is our Alice. You know, when the policeman pulls you over and says, "I want to see your ID," and you pull out your driver's license. Is that you, John Smith? And you say, yes, well, you just committed fraud, and that's the original sin. This is the illumination in practice. Okay, so all the laws and statutes of the brainwashed police officer, because he's in a state of illumination, he's acting as the police officer because he's in the storytelling that defines what a police officer is in the wonderland of the system, right? And so is the victim, the other victim who believes the ID, the all I am that I am. Yes, that's me. Oh, you were just doing 16 to 50K zone. Here's a fine for you, $500. Don't do it again, right? This is the same thing with the statutes of government laws. Now, if you read The Satanic Craft of Inculcation and Practice, put up the link, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to put the link in the description. I hear myself in
the only two links you need to put up is The Satanic Craft of Inculcation and Practice and the link to the homepage of the loveforlife.com.au website. If all your listeners and viewers just go to those two pages and lose yourself in there and make sense, there's repetition, but make sense of everything, then what will happen until the ebook comes out, because we're working on an ebook, which we wanted to get out ages ago, but it's dragging on and on because of our circumstances. When our ebook comes out, we hope that it will, we're working on trying to make a 2-hour read, which will do all this, hopefully, and cover much more for those who want small bite in a powerful way, with illustrations and all that. We're working on to do a lot of illustrations. Yeah. But so we won't go. There's so many areas we can shoot off here. But
I want to go back. I want to go back on the moon. Hold on. I have a question for you on the. I hear myself in echo. I can't really. Now, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, now the echo is gone. About the moon. Very interesting. I like what you said a lot because I'm trying to make sense of that thing for a long time now. Every night she comes out. One day she's there, the other day she's down there. Then the other day she vanished out of the sky with a 5 minutes interval. She never sets, she rise, but I never see her set. What is that whole thing? Is it a man-made projection? That's what Jabba told me. Jabba told me it was a man-made projection, something like that.
Because it's part of our dreaming, and everything of the dream of life is projected by us. That's why everyone has to be indoctrinated. So the uniformity, the uniform commercial code, the UCC of the system is projected. That's why we all agree on politics, and we agree on government, and we agree on law. The moon is the same thing. We have all accepted the alphabet languages as our communication. So that is why the moon exists. We put it into place because we've accepted the dream of that lie that forms our alphabet languages out of all the mathematics and geometries that is overseen by the Freemasons who practice the occults and esoterics, who practice this black magic craft. We are creating it, we are projecting it, and we pass it on to our children who also project it, and so it remains there until man stops believing in the lie. When man gives up this lie, and collectively man has given it up, and returns to reality, returns to sense, that moon will fade away and no longer be here. It will no longer appear in the dream of life, because it is man's dream of life we are addressing here. We are just dealing with man who's turned against man, brothers turning against brothers to manipulate them, to bring them into the I am that I am, to bring them into their idea of a reality where they get power and control over man. This is the only reason why the system exists. It's just a man wants to control another man. It's simple. It's an age-old thing. In the old days it was overt until it became a problem, so they had to find covert means, and they've developed covert means to try to avoid war and uprisals, and to try and sanitize, desensitize slaves deeply into a brainwashed sleep state, which is what education does, because it's a spell. We're taught to spell to put us under the spell. The illumination is a spell, because we are projecting the daffodil is yellow. When you come across that life form, the life form's not saying, hi, my daffodil's yellow. You're projecting the daffodil is yellow, and all the scientific explain over that life form. See, so when you're looking through a telescope or microscope, every thought in your head is not coming from what you're observing. Every single thought is not coming from what you are observing of reality. Every book you read, the thoughts are not coming from the book. When you're listening to us talking, the thoughts in you is not coming from us talking to you. When you're everything of the system is pretending, because we are representing and fantasizing what we think we're hearing, what we think we're seeing. And that is the illumination. And we're lost in the representation. Representation. Alice is not present with the presence of life. Little Mary, who was us, the living, is present with the presence of life. We can sense little Mary. We can sense man, the first party. But we can't sense Alice, the third party. Alice is not present with the presence of life. Alice needs little Mary to represent it. So we can only sense little Mary in first party. Right? But little Mary's lying to us because she's claiming Alice is in first party. Right. Well, that's what a representative of the bank, or representative of the government, or representative of the law, or a Michael Telliger talking about Ubuntu and a political party of Ubuntu and the system, or all these other liars. When anyone explains to you what consciousness is that. It's a lie. You can't explain truth to anyone because it's not your dream. This is illumination. That's the moon. And the moon ebbs and flows because the lie is like apparitions. They fade away and come back because you can't keep it up. You can't hold up the lie all the time. It fades away because it needs our life force energy. We recharge and raise it up again. Civilizations rise up and they die. Civilizations rise up and they die because the lie wears thin. But the truth does not need to be raised up because everything that exists of the truth doesn't need us to represent it. We don't have to act on behalf of the horse or the tree or the cow or anything of reality because the life form already bears that responsibility and lives and bees it. So we can observe it. Now, the living creators of our ancestors before the fall created all this. And we're witnessing the dreams of our ancestors because it's the dreams of the life of everything that lives that we are experiencing. Now, when we are brought up by nature, we're brought up by the inspiration, the dreams of our ancestors to create unique original dreams of the man that we are. Now, another way to look at this, think of the dream of life. I'll use a linear analogy, and I've used this in one of the very early videos like 6 years ago, whatever. Imagine the dream of life as a bubble.
Yeah.
And the creator, because every dream has a creator, and the dream of life is being held in the hand by the creator. And there's this bubble. And all the information that makes up the dream of life, the wind, the microbes, the biology, the trees, the forests, everything is in that bubble. But it's still just an idea. There's no life there. So the creator directed its breath, moved its life inside the bubble, but in coming inside the bubble, it came in as man. And set into motion, gave life to everything. Now that's an original man. The creator is an original man centered in paradise amongst this dream that this man created. Then this man dreamt for another man to share this companionship. So created another man. And this man is an original man because there's no hospital, there's no education, there's no Medicare, there's no ABC 1, 2, 3 to indoctrinate another man. This man was a true free man, gifted with everything of the original creator. So this man also is in the image of the original creator as an original man with no first or last, nothing. There's no exclusivity or privilege, nothing denied, right? And then this man created another man, dreamt for a companionship and dreamt another man. And that man was unique and original, as an original man too, in paradise, inside this bubble, right? And that's our ancestry. And every time there's an original man painting the dream of life, they're creating and adding more birds and more insects and creating more of everything. And everything we experience of the wind, the rain, the cloud, everything is dreamt by man. We're dreaming everything to the experience because we're the only first party. There is no third party coming forward in first party. That's a God or a higher being. All we got is fictions, right? Even if they brought a UFO in, the UFO can here's a simple way of rounding it out. What does the UFO do for life that aids life in rolling along? What of nature needs the UFO to exist so they can exist? What animal needs to eat the UFO so the UFO can exist? That the animal can exist, right? What's the address of this UFO so we go and visit? Go and sit down under a tree and have a laugh and a gig and have a talk with them. Where are the ancestors of the UFO buried? Where are the children of this UFO playing? This is the same with ABC 1, 2, 3 because they're UFOs. They're unidentified, they're alien. It's alien bullshit. It's all fantasy. You see, so the reality is simple to rat out. Just because a man can perform in third party and create science and create fictional things and call them, UFOs and aliens and genetic manipulations with biology and that inform these alien beings, that doesn't mean it's still proof of fact, right? And everything we're hearing that we're talking about has come from a man. So even when you're listening to me, it's coming from a man. Every book you read has come from a man. What you've got from the telescope microscopes come from a man, because those thoughts in your head, they're not coming from what you're looking at, it's come from another man who put those thoughts in your head. And you call that brainwashing or university, the education, right? It's come from another man. And everyone's fucking brainwashed and they're lying. And we call ourselves experts. And the lie does harm. When we believe the lie, we're destroying, doing harm. Because to create the physical material form, the image of the lie, you have to destroy the living to create a building, call it a bank. To create concrete, call it skyscrapers. To create copper, to call it telecommunication. Right? To create technology, motor cars. We have to destroy already what existed, was given a purpose by the original man who dreamt it all and gave everything a natural purpose without doing harm to us now who believe in the lie, and we have to go and harm. Now, the harm is the thoughts in your head. Now, every single thought is evidence of the harm working away at you. Right now, everyone who's listened to this video, every single thought in your head is a lie. They're not yours. And they are the signs of the dark side of the moon illuminating you, because they are the Freemasons who've not given you full disclosure of their intent to manipulate you into the education they gave you. Because their illumination is to keep you distracted, busy living your fake life in the fake matrix that they created. Because their real motive was to have power and control over you. The dark side controls you.
And yet that dark side isn't really hidden, because the evidence of their intent is obvious in the world that we have created in the image of these thoughts that we have been educated into. Because we're looking at a world of death and destruction and annihilation and bullying and greed and selfishness and all that sort of stuff. And that's the direct evidence of the intent that's come at us. I mean, we look at our children and we're shocked when they start exhibiting these signs of the greed, the selfishness. No, I want it, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. And we're like, oh no, you got to share, you got to this, you got to that. And no, you can't bully someone. And yet we're bringing them up in a world that is all about power and control. The Freemasons want power and control over us, so and that is what they create, and so we all run around trying to have power and control over each other, and then we're surprised when our children grow up and start exhibiting those signs also. But the evidence of what their intentions are is everywhere in what we are creating. You know,
can we really blame the youth? You know, we buy them toy gun, we buy them all kinds of stuff to brainwash them. Can we really blame the youth?
Because we're responsible for everything.
And that's what, you know, this is why anti-bullying programs don't do anything. Because we tell our children, no, you can't be bullied, don't bully, don't bully. And yet everywhere in the adult world, there's people trying to bully each other everywhere. So of course they mimic that, just as we mimic what the Freemasons' intentions for us in creating those sort of environments. So in fact, the intention is obvious. Just look out of your window and look at the harm, absolute destruction, heading as fast as we can towards total annihilation. And there you have the dark side of the moon right in front of your eyes. You just have to observe.
The dark side of the moon exists because we don't take responsibility for the lying that we perform, each of us. If man stopped lying and took responsibility and returned to truth, the dark side of the moon would fade away and all the illumination would go with it. Right, because there's a motive. So Fiona, like going back to the satanic craft of inculcation and practice, we're dealing with the Ordo Templi Orientis, an Aleister Crowley satanic group, because it is satanic, because satanic is this practice that we're describing. It relies on the inculcation, it relies on illumination, it relies on indoctrination, so all the victims who enter the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, have to be brainwashed. But they're coming from, again, the background of ABC 1, 2, 3, from so early, so they can comprehend the alien gobbledygook Martian talk of those UFOs that came across the seas to the ancestors of the man on the land who were free of all this shit, who then had to be invaded and decimated because they brought the illumination with it, the dark side of the moon, which became the government, became the laws, it became all the institutions, it became all these things. See, so today, we have the Ordo Templi Orientis in Canberra with this guy called David Bottrell. Hello, David. And he has a motive. He has a motive. The dark side of motive is to try to attack Fiona because she owns the website, right? Because they don't like us talking about these kind of things, because this cuts at the edge, the cutting edge of their lying. David Botcher will act as a liar, saying that he's injured, but he's in third party. His injury is always in third party. He claims the defamation has injured him, but he can't bring forward the defamation in first party to show that he's been injured. And neither can anyone inside the Australian capital, the ACAT, the tribunal, claim that this to be true, because they're all acting in third party. They're all acting as if Fiona, written on the pieces of paper that David Bottrell filed in ACAT, which is the court, it's just a different kind of court, claiming that this is Fiona Cristian's intent. So they're impersonating Fiona in third party, claiming that all the precedences of law relates to her. And so they use that intimidation, that's their motive, to injure her, to try to injure her, try to intimidate her, trying to get at me and injure me. But all of this is a scam, because it's all done in third party, not in first party. David Botcher can't come forward and claim these injuries to be true, because he'll fake it. But, you know, any of us can act on stage and Alice and act injured. That doesn't mean that we're injured. All the emotionless is acting, because it comes from the past projected into the future, right? That's the clock, because we're representing the prophecies that were given to us from the UFOs, right? From all the Freemasons on their ships who educated us. So we're projecting the prophecies to fulfill it. So if you look at the Old Testament as a book written by Freemasons, and it's set to the background of the calendar, because it's set to the Hebrew alphabet languages and other languages that he unfolded, including hieroglyphics. What you find is that a little boy sitting on the lap of a father says, "Look, son, we're in 45 BC. And there is the prophecy of what's to come at the end times. And these are all the prophecies, all the ones all the ones who gave the prophecy." So all this information is going into the child's head. But the child has already been brainwashed into Hebrew before the child could even begin to comprehend the constructs and concepts of prophecy and end times and all that shit. So there was a rearing up, a raising up of the dead into fantasy first, before you can accept more of the fantasy to perform the ritual. And so that child grows up, who has a child, and then he says, "Look, son, your father, your great-grandfather, your great-grandfather passed this book down to us. We're now in 95 AD, and look, this is the prophecy of the end times." And they're setting into motion the images, the information, giving it energy, giving it life. And the calendar has been set, because we've got months, days, weeks, hours, seconds. We've got January, February, March. We've got Aquarius, Sagittarius, we've got all the astrology. We've got all the heavens mapped out, because these are all measurements. Third party, what you're looking for a telescope micro, all the explanation put in our heads. So they give life to the illumination, and they pass it on to their grandchildren, great descendants to come. And when the end times arrive, because the calendar says we are now in the end times, guess who's creating it? Everyone who believed in and gave energy to these ideas the whole time. So we're the only first party, and we manipulate each other in these satanic crafts. Now this is what Satanism is. Satanism is creating a fantasy and getting people to believe it as reality, so they will worship the fantasy and be subjected by the rules and the laws and authorities of that fantasy. So we raise up from the dead a fiction. We call it the system. And all the rules, regulations, rituals, procedures, conditions, contract, race, culture, creeds, titles, standings, everything, lifestyles, is that. And we're creating it all, because we are projecting it. Think about brains as a film projector, and the film of the prophecy is coming across our eyes, and we're projecting it into the cinema of life. We're painting it on the canvas of nature in our image of I am. And so, because our great-grandfather did it, and our father did it, and our mother did it, and our children did it because we told them to do it too. So who do you think's creating it?
That's why we have came to destroy pretty much everything on Earth, destroy all the trees, and we're cutting down trees like crazy.
Because that's what the lie does. Because the lie has to do harm. Because to set into motion the lie, the illumination of the dark side of the moon, we have to destroy reality. And we only destroy reality because we believe in the fantasy as if it is reality. Because we're acting the fantasy in third party. See, to be a Christian is a fantasy. To be a New Ager is a fantasy. To be a channeler is a fantasy. To be a Greek is a fantasy. To be a man who earns 100,000 a year income is a fantasy. Everything of the system that comes out of the background of storytelling is that. But we have to destroy reality to form the fictional, material, physical form of that illusion. So we destroy trees to create buildings. We destroy mountains to create concrete and plastic, to raise up the dead out of the living. And we have to destroy man to create a zombie robot man, a drone, to perform the inculcation of the emotion of the ego of that fictional persona, to act like those poor victims in Cambodia, like the poor victims under the control of Michael Tellinger through Ubuntu and Venus Project with Jack and all the others that are doing this bullshit. Got to watch out for this scam, because the background is trauma. Everyone has been subjected to trauma through the television now, right? Everywhere you see there's war, there's chaos, there's no control, no one's taking responsibility. Chaos is everywhere. And the Freemasons always provide order to this chaos because no one's taking responsibility for the lying. No one wants to stop lying. So, what Fia was saying earlier, who's going to come and save us? Who's going to fix it? Because I don't want to give up all the good things of this lie. I love my car. I love my petrol. I love my lifestyle. I don't like all this other harm. I don't like seeing all this other destruction. We've got to stop all that. But they don't see that the very thing that they like is what's causing all this destruction, because it's all one and the same shit. It all comes together. Because unless you step back and see the bigger picture of this lie, you'll protect those things that you still believe that you're attached to, that you think that's what forms my identity, that forms my reality, and my life comes out of that. So we become these internet warriors. We become all these kind of people, and we're all these people talking freedom and truth and argue over the internet, and we've got to have petitions. We've got to rally up millions onto the streets. We've got to stop this. But nothing changes because we're still in the fantasy, believing the lie, because we won't take responsibility to become conscious again. So we withdraw from lying because it's a private, silent moving away from lying. That is the true shift in consciousness, because the only shift in consciousness that's happening is not based on the stars and or the prophecies of the books. It's seeing the bullshit for what it is and walking away from it, because the truth was already buried underneath all the bullshit. And that's all that's happening. And we were those innocent children directly connected to the truth and then got out and bombarded by all these thoughts in our head. That's formed the robot that we've become, that performs this language you and I are talking. Because we're robots talking right now, man. Talking English.
Yeah.
But if it's our intention, you can control the fiction and create a bridge to get out of this, to get to the other side and create a remedy in this life and walk away from all of this.
The fact is that now, currently, like probably 99.99% of all of us, men and women, prefer death, destruction, and annihilation to freedom.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're continuing to choose that in how we're living, rather than make the sacrifice of all the things that we enjoy in the system to walk away from it all and heal the damage. The vast majority of people are still choosing death and destruction.
Because
as much as they're in denial of this and they think they're conscious and they're waking up, no, when it comes down to it, those who are actually prepared to go, you know what, I can do without the electronics, I can do without the home comforts, I'm prepared to rough it, I'm prepared to work hard, I'm prepared to live in difficult conditions, so long as, because I know I want to get rid of it.
Let's say we're prepared to retrain who we really are, so we don't need air conditioning, we don't need it, because our body can do everything. And if we change our thinking, we change the climate and we change everything. We have all the power. It's only because we doubt our power, we doubt the responsibility of that power, that we are lost in the dark side of the moon, because we're still lost to the illumination. We're still attached with the lust for illumination, the lust for money, the lust for a fake consciousness, the lust for this explanation, the lust for my piece of land. The amount of people who want freedom, who still want to own. I own the land, it's my land, it's mine, I worked all my life for it, it's mine, it's mine. But they don't see that their whole life was a lie. And everything they lived for was a lie. And you know, the thing about the system, you need a brainwashed world of slaves for you to have what you claim that you own. Right? It's impossible. And then if you still want to claim that you own something, you need a system to protect that. And then you need a force, which is administration that comes with that force, to protect what you claim that you own. So it's a horrific situation to be in, because you need brainwashed slaves for you to perform the system of this illumination. So there's no remedy in the system, because any remedy that Michael Tellinger and all these people are offering you still relies on brainwashed slaves to provide their claim remedy. So how many men and women need to be educated? Because that is destruction. The moment you educate a child, you're desecrating them. That is destruction. Yeah. That is destruction. And this destruction will never stop until we obliterate the whole of man's dream of life, because that's what we're seeing as the scars across the whole of the dream of life. All the harm. And we are party to it. And this is why we say from the beginning, we're not fully conscious yet, because we're still using fiction. I mean, this is a fiction, you know?
At the moment,
this is a fiction.
This
is a fiction.
We're still the chain smokers. We're still the chain smokers who choose to keep lighting up, keep lighting up, keep lighting up, even though we know fully well that it's very destructive to the body and most likely will lead to a very painful death. We still keep choosing to buy the cigarettes and light them and smoke them. We are none of it, you know, we can't pass judgment on those people, because we are all doing the same thing when we keep our addictions to the system, and we will not let them go. We will not say, no, I'm going to let that go because I can see the destruction. It's just like, oh yeah, I want freedom, but I still want this, I still want that, I want me, mine, I want my comforts, I want my entertainment, I want all this sort of stuff.
Want all the right thing. We are scum. We're all scum. We truly are scum. We are pieces of shit.
We're destroying the earth. And
while we believe in the fantasy, we are that shit. And we're projecting that shit everywhere, because it's destruction, it's lying, it's fraud, and we're all party to it. But we were we're all innocent, because we were so young and God, we're not given full disclosure of the dark side of the moon. The result of this illumination would be absolute chaos everywhere, and that we would have a fake order to this chaos under the guise of the illumination of government and law and statutes, because the people behind it are all sold out to Freemasonry, because they have all their private means to maintain a covert method of power and control. This goes back to ACAT, and this whole thing with ACAT, with Fiona, with David Bottrell. This is how it works. So those of you who get inside the satanic craft of inculcation and practice, and get inside the homepage of the Love Life website, you'll see more of this, right? Particularly like the sandpit. We talk about the sandpit. Imagine a sandpit, and every grain of sand in that sandpit is a thought made up by another man. And then that man wants to take children, put them inside that sandpit and say, listen, child, they're not saying it this way. They're just putting the child in the sandpit, giving a shovel and a bucket and some other tools. Here, I want you to create your life out of here. So all you ever know from day one in their thing is what we provided you. So you only think what we told you to think. You can only build what we told you to build. You only can be who you can be by what we've given you. And all you know is inside that sandpit, right? And you build this fake reality. We raise up the civilization of this make-believe illusion of fantasy. The whole system is this shit, right? All the religions, no one is apart from this, because all Christians running and being Christians have to do harm, need slaves to uphold their idea of Christianity. All those who believe in Buddha and Allah and Muhammad and believe in the Torah and the Talmud and the Quran, the Bhagavad Gitas and the New Age Channel and the Galactic Federation, and who believe in government and constitutions, who believe in atheism and system science and quantum physics and all this bullshit, they need slaves. You need blue collars, white collars, you need laborers, you need educators, you need experts, commentators, you need all this brainwashing, because it's all set to the background. For you to run around believing that you are Greek or Italian, that you believe that you are a scientist or an engineer or a school teacher. Yeah, I'm a good guy. I don't want to harm anyone, but we're fucking harming all the time, because we're so compromised. And we don't see it, because we don't want to see it, because we're so blinded to the illumination. The glory of Lucifer's light is so bright. We love the money.
Talking about Lucifer, you just mentioned Lucifer. Have you heard the 23rd of September what the Pope Francis going to do in Jerusalem?
No.
We don't care what they're going to do.
He's bringing the Jewish people, the Arab, the Muslim people, and the Catholic all together to proclaim Lucifer as God.
Well, it's true because the Christians is worshipping Lucifer. All of them have been for a long, long time. The whole one world government is a merging of all these lies into one big lie, and we call it one world. Zeus is one world government. All the Greek gods were typified all the different aspects of government today. You know, so You know, if you look at all the old civilizations, what remained of it, because most of it's under the oceans today, you know, where we all lived, lower down the Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, Atlantic, Mediterranean, you name it. All it's full of cities and roads and highways and byways. All that was destroyed roughly 1,200 years of sunrises ago. This happened. See, so what I'm getting at is that they all have, we talk about this a lot in our work, they all have read and write alphabet languages. We're talking about the background again of this dark side of the moon. All of them had read and write alphabet languages, mathematics and geometry. All of them had the rule of law, the divinely appointed by God, the high priesthoods divinely appointed by God, and the royal families divinely appointed by God. Now, you can call it the United Nations, you can call it NATO, you can call it Caesar, you can call it emperors, you can call it whatever you like. These 6 combinations forms the fiction of civilization. Now, this shows you, wherever you look into recorded history, you're reading into the background of the Freemasonic history, because it is his story. It was made up by man, and the whole history of this lie was put in their books and recorded all the ages of this fucking lying. And that's all we're seeing. And all the civilizations of this man's lie popped up until we almost decimated the whole of Earth, right? Because this is the second coming of Jesus. They've tried this once before. And if anyone does their homework and dives in deeper, they'll find they found the remains of telecommunication, computers, technology, cars, trains, planes. It was all there before. We did it all before. And they're recreating it again. They're so stupid, these people. They think they're going to recreate again and pull it off. Another way to look at this, think of the world today being destroyed, again, as it happened before, when all the waters came in. This will happen probably through fire and other means this time, and serious psychotic diseases people just drop dead, because they'll just go like that everywhere, because they're just gone, because they're already gone. It's going to go like that, because that's what happens with fantasy when you believe it that much, and you create that. Now imagine, as an analogy, this, and I must stress the point before I forget, when I talk about the bubble, the crater in the hand, well, there's no outside or inside to the bubble. There's no beginning end to that bubble, right? So the only thing that has a beginning end are the ideas of the lie that we call civilization. So if you imagine the world today, because the world is the system, the world is not Earth. The world is a lie, because the lie was made up of a history of a man who dreamt this bullshit, who eliminated everyone who followed his idea. So you imagine this lie all collapsing before our eyes. And what remained was just devastation everywhere, and a few of us remained alive. But a few of these Freemasons were there amongst us. And then after 200 or 300 years, they started making up, redoing all their books, recreating it, and they said that Argentina was 45,000 BC. Even though it's only 300 years went down the line, they're saying it was 45,000 BC. Australia was 100,000 BC. America was 400,000 BC. They're saying that this country, China, and that was all this. And break it all up. Break it all up. Even though everything all existed here and now, right now. They make it like as if they all came at different times. And they threw an evolution and carbon dating to break it all up. So you can't make sense of everything. Now that's exactly what they talk about when they talk about Atlantis, because Atlantis was Egypt. Sumerian and all that stuff is Egypt, because Egypt is the system. The Aztecs, Mayans, Incas is the system of Egypt, because Egypt is the stuff we're talking about, those 6 things. So if you look everywhere, you'll find these 6 common denominators. And they try to make us forget our past of this lying, so that we are so shut down that we'll recreate it as a new world order and sit there and worship the Olympic Games and birthdays.
The Olympic Games, yeah.
The Olympic Games, and all, and birthdays and Christmas days and Easter days and all the other fairies and fictions that make up the system of lying. So that's a prophecy. The indoctrination is so powerful. Now again, we say to everyone, don't believe anything we're saying. We're saying that the meteor's coming down was that explosion that happened, and all went up, and all the asteroids, and everything's coming back, because it all comes from Earth. Because everything you see is Earth. All the celestial bodies is Earth, and everything is water. Let's just explain in some of our videos, like the water, water video. See this? People can go into these videos. And
it's interesting to develop on this too.
Because all our thoughts, all our intentions, everything is encoded in our breath as we breathe out. And there remains in present sense, because it's a living consciousness. Our breath is a living consciousness. So the fantasy of our lying is encoded in our breath. So our lie continues while we believe it. So all the descendants who continue believing the lie will continue sensing the lie, because here you look at the daffodil as yellow, you're still seeing the life form, but you're projecting the bullshit over the life form. You're hooding it, as in priesthood, brotherhood. You're shrouding it in darkness. And everything in your head is this darkness, because it's the dark side of the moon, illuminating the lie of the civilization we live in, of the occults and esoterics of consciousness and freedom. Because, you know, whose freedom is it when someone explains it to you? It's not your freedom. It's just an idea put in your head. And you can run with it and say, oh, I'm free. I'm freedom. Oh, I'm Greek. We're just a fucking man on land, man. We're just fucking man on land, nothing else. Everything else is bullshit. And it creates the rules of the divide. It's a shattered reality. And when we accept the shattered reality of the dark side of mood through the illumination, we break each other down into compartmentalizing things. And from that, we use the measurements and the dimensions and levels of the compass and square of the Freemasons to make a fucking mess of all of us. And here we are in a fucking mess. And we somehow think in amongst this fucking mess, there's a remedy. There's fucking nothing to be found there, guys. You'll never find it. You have to get outside of all of this nonsense to sense the remedy.
Oh, yeah,
and it means
sure.
to withdraw from lying. We have to stop. And this is where the kingdom dream comes into it. We created a remedy called kingdom, where we work together, those of us who sense the bigger picture, and we built this fictional bridge where we work together to create the food, the abundance, the shelter. It's like Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt, because that's what happened before. We've done this all before. Our ancestors have done this before. This is not the first time we've departed Babylon or Egypt, the system. And every time this lie has appeared, some of us amongst us, our ancestors, have done this. Because some of us see through the bullshit so easily. Because we're the antibodies, we're the immune system to life, because the dream of life is so powerful. We don't want the dream of life to be completely destroyed, which we do if we accept everyone as the lie. And we raise up the whole lie to it. Nothing exists of reality anymore, and we've destroyed it. And we've done it. So many of us come to be those antibodies of that wake up to this lie and stand up to it. So it looks like it's a fight, but it's not our war. It's their war, not our war. We're just saying, fuck you, fuck everything you've done. We don't need you. We don't need to suck on the nipples of your corporations. We don't need your explanations to define who we are. We don't need your fake relationships to tell us how we should live and be. And we don't need your laws and rules and all that. We've got it all. Each of us is already all that. We are the judge. We are the jury. We are everything. It's built into every one of us, because that's part of consciousness. If we wake up and take the full responsibility and be a man on the land, a free man on the land, not explained man on the land.
I think we have everything already, but it's to take responsibility. And there's someone in the comments that was saying that you are really speaking truth, and that people might not be really ready to receive your message because it implies to take responsibility. And that's what I've been doing, me, myself, taking my responsibility, doing my part. But some people are not ready to take their responsibility.
The evolution of the prophecy will be their death. It's spiritual suicide. If they don't wake up, they're truly choosing eternal death. System is compromises that we only have a choice now between life or death. When before the system, it was always life. There was no death because no one dreamt it. There was no fantasy to fall into to live the lie. Now we are compromised and waking up. It's basically a choice between eternal life or eternal death. Those who don't want to wake up, they will go forevermore, and that's it. You know, in terms of the fiction of time, we're dealing with less than 2 years here now. Maybe even less. It could be 2 years, it could even be 1 year. Whatever it is, those who choose death will go. Those who choose eternal life will begin to do something about the kingdom remedy. Forget the word kingdom, forget the explanations, sense the intention.
The intention, that's what has to be sensed, the intention.
That's the intention to work together, to build a bridge, to get out of this nightmare together in this life, right? Because in doing it, we're spreading the living conscious, the dream, and that dream continues to live because we dream it. We dream it. That's why it lives. So that the responsibility is with every man, because we bear the original man. We bear the full power of the living creator. Each of us is a living creator. Dumb down and stupid is part of that expression of being the living creator, because we used our free will as the living creator to be dumbed down and stupid and deep asleep. We created that. We don't know it, but we fucking did that too. But the fact is that if we want to wake up, we are responsible. Don't ask the government to fix it. Don't ask Michael Tellinger to fix it with his Ubuntu political party. Don't ask, Frederick Malouf and all these other people. Don't ask these gifting communities to fix it. They're not going to fix it. They're still in the system of the lie. The only ones that are going to wake up are those who really wake up and take full responsibility and stop lying and stop running around in fantasy. Because when you wake up, there's no savior, there's no messiah, there's no one to rescue. It's just us being accountable for our actions and living that and setting it into motion, creating it. That's why we have a food forest garden here. Even though we were broken down and our family home was stolen and all the fraud happened, we decided we're not scum. We're not shit. We're not going to live off their handouts. This man dropped the name, dropped everything in 2006. This man said, I don't need you to live. I woke up. I don't need you. I don't need your government. I don't need your laws. I'll use the system to build the living garden food forest and eat and do what I do to get out of this, in this life, and fix up all the mess I made through all my life while I was asleep, and supporting, because I was a great liar, I was an exaggerator, I took drugs, I did everything, man. I was dumb and stupid, and I still have those effects resonating because I gave it so much energy for so long that you've got to retrain. We have to retrain the true man. Yeah. So we have the skills, because in the system we practice great slavery. We are really skilled in being a slave. But to practice being a living man who's free, it's not going to fall in our laps. It's not going to happen overnight. You've got to work at it, and you've got to be conscientious and watch out for the thoughts in your head that keep you dumbed down and stupid. So we have to practice the skills of freedom, so we raise up the living man to be the original man that we all are meant to be, and take that responsibility. Now, those of us who can do it will come together, and that's happening here now. And more are coming here to do it. We don't care. We're not worried about their law. You see, when you wake up, our consciousness is not defined by this body. Our consciousness is the whole of the dream of life. The living creator dreamt the whole of the dream of life and moved in. The whole of the dream of life is the creator, is God itself.
I always said it, the dream that we live, each and every one, is what's binding us together. It's important to live your dream of life, to live your dream, to
and you
do something with your life.
I can't create that for anyone else to be that. They've got to create it themselves, uniquely. Yeah. And it can't come from the thoughts in their head. They've got to use their sense to make sense and use the inspiration and the passion of the unconditional love, all the virtues of unconditional love, all those things that we naturally built with that firepower of our life force energy to raise up the living man. That's how we create the living soul. We can't think a living soul. We've got to create and be it and live it. You can't educate. You can't lead anyone to it. So there's no savior. The work that we do, we're not leaders for anyone, man. There's no one to follow us. Anyone follows is lost. And we're lost if we accept that.
That's what I always said. That's what I always said. I said, I'm not here for having followers. I want to create leaders like me. I don't want to have followers. I don't want to have people following me.
Walk the talk. Be the living example. Let people sense with their own what we're capable of. That we're capable to withstand all this bullshit pressure. Look, the system of the Freemasons are conquering all. They brought all the slaves across with the UFO ships. They promised these new lands, and America the lucky country, Australia the lucky country, the new American dream, the new Australian dream. Come on, you slaves, all our slaves from all the serfs and commoners of Europe, come and build a new future of yourself in these lands. So they brought them all over all the ships with the promise of a new world for them. They built the roads, they built the buildings, they did all the highways, built all the railways, built all the airports, built everything. When they did it all, they put the noose back tight on their neck and turned everyone back into slaves, because they never left as slaves. They were given the illusion that they were having freedom. They were just used and abused to form the system, and then when they didn't fucking need them all, they fucked everyone else up. That's why they're destroying all the middle classes. This is why they're destroying anyone who has an influence over public thinking. Anyone's got a conscience to speak out, they murder them. And they've been doing it since the 50s and 60s. Diana Spencer, John Lennon, George Harrison. These people were murdered. They didn't just die because they had cancer. They were fucking got at and were given it. And you'll find it, everyone, the crocodile hunter, Peter Brock in Australia. You're going to find thousands of these people. The good-hearted people who started seeing it, and they speak out the truth. They've got to kill them and remove them, because this is part of their worship of death, because they worship death, these people. Their God is death and destruction, because Lucifer is destruction, is the dark side of the moon. They destroy, they worship fantasy. And these people are projecting afterworld fantasies and afterlife fantasies. They believe that their gods and dimensions and all their rituals they practice are going to give them. They're fucking lost. They're in the placebo effect of the Stockholm syndrome that has enslaved them, because they practiced it in the occults, and they trapped themselves in the balloon that they created, and they fall inside, and they believe that somewhere in there they're going to find their fucking future. They're fucking stupid. They're all committing suicide. David Poulter, you're a fucking idiot. All of you fucking Satanists, you're fucking idiots, a lot of you. We're not your enemy. We're your fucking brother. We're here to help you get up and get out. We're not angry.
Open your eyes. That's what we're saying. Open your eyes.
The whole of Canberra will disappear very soon. All these people building all the underground bases to hide. You know what it is? It's no different to all the sarcophagi and putting all their bodies in their temples in the old days. And then the whole civilization was destroyed. But they all got fucking killed too. They're creating their own tombs to kill themselves in. They're too stupid to sense what they're really doing, because the fantasy rules them. They're so lost in it. And they think they have all the power and the arrogance and all this disconnection from reality that makes them non-sensory. Is this emotional shit, this egoistic force. It's a Luciferic power that was man-made, dreamt by this idiot, their grand architect who started this lying. All we are doing here is we woke up and realized, oh shit, how big does this lie go?
That's when I realized how big this is, and how they blown up our ego, how they came to blown up our ego also to freaking.
There are no winners in it. Yeah. There are no winners, brother. There are no losers in this and that way. If there is losers, what I'm getting at is that all those who are trapped in this lie are committing suicide.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All the evidence of the remains of the last attempt, the first time they tried this one world system thing. And you see all the remains all across Earth. You see the same 6 things with all its architecture, all their gods and all the mysteries. Well, there's no fucking mystery, mate. There never has been a mystery. The truth has never been a mystery. Only the lie needs a mystery to keep you lost in and working for the mystery, thinking you're heading to some kind of awakening, some kind of illumination where you're ascending consciousness. It's all bullshit. It's no different than the child who's brainwashed into the clock of the calendar, who follows the prophecy and fulfills the prophecy through the end times. It's no different to the idiot who's brainwashed. I've got to go to work to make money to service my mortgage and pay my lease and pay my bills and all that. It's the same shit. They're just lost in the placebo of their own self-fulfillment of their prophecy, passed on by the prophecies, the prophetic ones who gave them this brainwashed program. So what we're getting at here is that there are no victors who made. We're no winners. We're not winners in this. It's a choice. Do you want to have eternal life, or do you want to have eternal death?
Do you want to embrace life or embrace death? You know,
it's not enough just to build food forests. It's if you're not prepared to face the trauma, and this is what most people run away from. If you're not prepared to face the trauma that you carry, and that means examining all the dark, ugly stuff inside you of how you act and how we lie and how we behave
and how we live off slaves
and how we destroy. If we're not prepared to face all those nasty things about us all, then it doesn't matter how many food forests we build. We're still lost in the same system, the same thing, and that's the biggest thing. And the biggest thing we find that most people run away from is actually facing the trauma and realizing that what it is that's making us still cling and still create the destruction, still create all the harm.
The remedy is not found amongst slaves. You know, everybody in the system lives off slavery. They need brainwashed slaves to become the blue collars, white collars, laborers, etc. of the system, so they can provide all the benefits and privileges and exclusivity of that slavery, right? There is no remedy in it. You can't rely on a slave system to provide you with freedom. There is no freedom to be found amongst slavery. There's no truth to be found amongst fantasy. There is no consciousness to be found amongst the unconscious. You can't find anything to fix this problem in something that doesn't even exist. That's just a fantasy. You have to step outside of all of it to make sense, to reconnect with your living soul and expand that, or even create it, because there will be many of us that don't even have a soul because we never dreamt it. You know, and those who were created were dreamt through lust and horniness and boredom and whatever, and produced a child they don't even fucking dreamt for.
And then these people have to grow up, and if they don't reconnect and discover the creation of a soul and expand it, there ain't one there, man. And all the demonic energy that they're relying on, of all that illumination of the dark side, you know, as in the Star Wars dark side, and all this shit, is that. So people are giving over their lives to the altars. They're giving over their lives to sacrificial lambs, to the Luciferic Baal worship, you know, if you want to call it, to the Babylon methods of destruction. So there is no remedy to be found amongst slavery. Michael Telliger's relying on a slave system to fix the problems of slavery. He's not outside of it. He's trying to make a band-aid remedy within it. And it's why he's created Ubuntu into a political party. A fucking idiot. You go, how can you fucking use the system to fix the system? It only perpetuates the fucking system. Michael Telliger runs. He won't fucking talk to us about any of this. All these people run. We want to talk to them. Let's have an open discussion, heart-to-heart conversation, and let's all go where truth takes us. Yeah. Because I don't want to be compromised. I don't want my children compromised by this lying. Because if we accept these people, they're forcing all our children and everyone else who are innocent to become slaves in the new model that they're offering. And we are responsible and accountable for our actions. So we say, fuck off. No. No. Bullshit. And but not just say it, prove it. So we argue. You'll see in our work, we don't just sit there and go, fuck that. We don't do that. We explain everything, provide a full disclosure of the big picture. So it's there before them. We give them the plate. We don't give them a bowl of shit. We don't give them a bowl of something with a bit of shit in it. We give them total truth. And if there's anything in amongst we're saying is a lie, show us, so we can improve this bowl of living truth, living food. If someone comes to your life, do you want to give them a bowl of shit? Do you want to give them a bowl of some shit? Or you give them a bowl of pure, unadulterated truth? Right? Well, in the system, it's a bowl of shit. Yeah. And we call it love and relationships. And we fall in love with each other through shit. And we build these shit relationships with each other because we're scum living off the slave system. You'd be surprised the tentacles of the slavery, how deeply entwined in each one of us. And we're so utterly fucked up. The Dancing with Magic videos, the Dancing with Magic in brackets lies videos, there's 4 of them, part 1 to part 4. You'll find them in those 2 links. I'm
going to post all the link in the description. I'm going to do a big thing in the description.
So going back to the original intent of us talking with you when you contacted us, if anyone can make sense of what we're sharing here, they don't need to listen to anything else in that way, because they've got us drawing from. But those who want to keep contemplating using scrutiny to disentangle the lying, which is the web, it's the Black Widow's web spider of all their thoughts that are intermeshed into all their fake reality. That is the projection through the telescope and the microscope, what we're looking at, the books that we read, that it's not coming, the thoughts is not coming from what we're looking. When you're listening to us, it's not coming from us when you're hearing us talking. It's coming from your own shit in your head, right? This is where we fucked up. This is how clever. And this is why we say in all our work, the greatest lie and liar is the one closest to the truth. They cause the greatest damage of all because people learn to trust them. Do not trust us. Do not trust them. Do not trust fucking anyone. Use scrutiny and work it out, and know your heart and know your heart's the hearts of your brothers and sisters, and work together with those who are sincere to get out of this fucking mess. Because we've got kids, and we're not going to leave them a legacy of fucking slavery. Because my mother left me with the legacy of fucking slavery. I woke up in the middle of this fucking shit, and I felt so ashamed. So my passion is this: I fucking destroy everything that's a bullshit. Because what else am I supposed to do? I've got to pave the way for my children to have an opportunity when they fully wake up, because they've all been brainwashed too.
This is why I had to come out when I learned about all this stuff about the system and everything. I have 3 children. What I'm gonna keep doing, lying to them and feeding them with bullshit? No, I gotta tell them the truth, and we all gotta rise to the occasion and do something.
This is why we argue with each other. But we don't argue to destroy each other. We push the boundaries. We go for it. People who said we actually go for each other because we're pushing the boundaries of lie to get to the bottom of the truth. So we're no longer influenced by this trauma-based stuff that makes us those Pol Pot situation in Cambodians. We're not going to be just, oh yes, I gave up responsibility. Just give me that. Just give me that that sanctuary. Please give me something I can find safety. Oh, yes, Michael Tellinger. Oh, yeah, you're Ubuntu. Oh, yes. Give me that.
Or just give me, I'll keep working away at the system so long as I can have my holiday once a year, and so long as I can have a house to live in, and I'll just keep paying the
this is what people are doing, and they're building life to wait for the holiday. And that me, I want to build a life that I don't need to take a holiday from, you know. But this is what I'm doing. For me, like day and night, not much. There's not much difference for me day and night. I'm living my dream. I wanted to speak out to the world. I wanted to raise up and shine, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm living, for sure, I'm doing my part in this. I'm doing my part. You are doing your part, guys. It's already 2 hours and something, so I don't want to hold you back much longer, but we will be back again next Wednesday, right?
Yeah, we could talk about it. Just remember this, that the system is full of discrimination and censorship. Out of it comes exclusivity and privilege, and every slave has that benefit. And but it's not truly a benefit because it comes from destruction and lying. The whole of the system supports the illusion of measurements in such a way, because we have been measured by giving, you see, the system is a name of many names because the name is explanation. When we say the daffodil is yellow, it's an explanation, right? It's an instruction. Now, you see it in our work, Adam, Eve, apple, and snake. The snake provided the explanation to Eve. This is exactly how the illumination, the dark side of the moon works. So when you read this, you'll see this. So what we're trying to point out here is that we are all party to the lying because we want the exclusivity and privilege is what we claim to be true because we own those lies. These lies are trauma-based. And while we worship this trauma, we worship Lucifer. We worship the lie of the illusion that we believe is reality. And in doing that, we are destroying everyone. We together, we rout out that Luciferic influence between us. We have periods where we absolutely unload on each other. And there is no restriction because the intent is pure. So we shatter. I'll shatter her, she shatters me. We come at each other. A lot of people out there will be so trapped in the trauma, they don't like it. And they will not want to return to the truth because they're too fucking scared. And the thing is that we can't determine everybody needs to be shocked back into it, but unless we truly wake up, the anesthetics of the trauma will keep us so enslaved that the system of name, right? And remember this, A is a name, B is a name, C is a name, 1 is a name, 2 is a name, 3 is a name. And everything coming out of the system is a name because the system is a name of name and name because the name is explanation, the name is instruction, the name is education, the name is illumination, and the name is the dark side of the illumination, the dark side of the moon. Right? So that's why we have an address, why we have a street, why we have a suburb, why we live in cities with names, because it's a whole fucking fantasy. None of this is going to fix anything. So don't think that just because we talk for this 2 hours, that somehow they're going to help people wake up, because the thoughts in the head is name. And the name is the mark of the beast, because the name is the mark of a man's intent to control you through the name that you were given. And the name is everything you believe that is explaining to you the reality that is a fucking fantasy. So if you want to wake up, you've got to get outside of the name, outside of the libraries, outside of the supermarkets, because it's full of names, the shelves full of names, outside of the suburbs and the cities and states, outside of the astrology and the numerology, outside of the astrotheology of bullshit, bloody Santos Bonacci and all these fucking lies, because they're all fucking keeping people trapped in the fantasy of this lying. Now, if you wake up, you don't sit there and accept it because the community immunity, the true immunity says, fuck off lie. We're like an elephant gun. It just goes, and dissolves the lie. You do not accept it amongst you. Do not let it come into you because one tiny bit of lie will destroy you. One tiny little fucking hole in a wall of resistance will bring the whole wall down if you accept that lie, because through the hole in that crack will seep more lies and wear that hole down to the whole wall collapses. So don't accept the lie in the lollies, the lies of the smiling politicians, the lies of the Michael Tellingers and all this fucking New World Order bullshit that's under the guise of our new freedom consciousness. Wake up, because this lie is destroying you, because the name is death.
Yeah.
The name is death. Death to who you are. Death to your soul. You believe the thought in your head, you've accepted death. You've accepted the fucking cancer of this psychotic disease amongst you, and you give it to your children, and you give it to everyone. And we walk around worshipping fucking death. And that's why we drive fucking cars. That's why we go to fucking work. That's why we work with money, because we love fucking death. Because the Freemasons love death, because that's what they created for us. They worship death, because that's all they got. That's all they're offering is death. They don't offer life.
No,
So
that
get you back there, because it won't. Unless
it's a
you take
world
this
of
one-
low vibration. Everything is low vibration in this world. I always said it. The moment that just to think of going out to heat outside, I get depressed. So imagine the rest.
It's just intention is impure. The low vibration is impure intention, insincere thoughts, where full disclosure is not provided to their victims. They don't tell children, us being all those children, we're all man, but we have been discombobulated, we've been mesmerized by fantasy. And because our parents have been discombobulated and mesmerized by fantasy, and all around us have been mesmerized, we are in a world of just zombies and fucking robot slaves, carrying the egoistic performances of the emotion, the motion of their intent. That's what the ecclesiastical is. Their intent. We worship their intent. And that's the system. So if you wake up, it doesn't matter how we look, how we dress. It doesn't matter the color of our skin. Because you've got to get past all this. Got to get past all this, because the remedy's outside of all of this.
Yeah.
That's what we've come to. So why we talk to you here, you know?
Yeah.
Happy to come next Wednesday. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. We'll look at more of the ebook side of stuff. We'll talk about it. But that's all we've got to offer, mate. We are basically robots repeating the same stuff the last 10 years. We've just improved it and dressed it up and dressed it up more and more. I mean,
Well, learn how to become clearer, you know,
Yeah.
in what we're saying,
but
how to get things more simple. That's what we've done, really.
I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight. I've learned a lot. Like I say, every time I do those shows, it's to learn, and I'm sure the people in the chat were really, really happy to see you here. And I saw a lot of comments. I can give you a few things that people have been saying. Hold on. Let me check, because I'm the only producer of the show here, so I have to check. But there's one guy that says here, hold on, I saw something. He said about, indeed, Lucifer, that's Bender Lysergic. He said, indeed, Lucifer is the compelling emotions derived from the alphanumeric reads, write, language, and thought construct instilled into us via our innering and indoctrination.
I bet you that man's got a shovel in his hand while he wrote that. I bet you that man, he's actually building a kingdom dream right now, because
He's probably turning a compost.
he's probably turning a compost right now. But it sounds like a non-illuminated man. So I'd like to meet this man. I'm going to track him down. He might be in our backyard.
He probably is in our backyard.
He's probably in our backyard right now. You know,
He's probably in your backyard, yeah.
Anyone who wakes up, we don't talk about it. Get a fucking shovel in your hand, get a pick, and start fucking digging your way out of this bullshit. Get your food forests happening. Build your real brothers and sisters. Get through the trauma. Stop separating and pulling each other apart.
Stop letting the distrust and the fear stop you from creating something powerful between you, because that's what happens. People come together with good intentions to do something, but then the distrust creeps in, the fear, the worry that they're going to be taken advantage of, the what if it doesn't work,
what's in it for me?
And that is what destroys it instantly. You got to go for it and go, okay, I'm here for the long term. There's going to be hell along the way, but that's how we get through to the other side.
Maybe our next video would go more into the selflessness, because the trauma is the illumination we reflect. So when you're standing in front of a mirror, I'll just quickly give you a touch on this. When you're standing in front of a mirror, the reflection of you is the illumination. Now, if a child is not indoctrinated, the child does not see anything there in that way, because there's no storytelling attached to the reflection. But when we bring storytelling to the reflection, we create this illumination, and it's the projection of this illumination that we superimpose over reality that forms the fantasy of who we believe that we are. That is what we've practiced over and over again every day, because we're thinking ABC 1, 2, 3. You know, we work ABC 1, 2, 3. We feel ABC 1, 2, 3. So we're constructed an artificial reality. Now that makes us self-centered. Think of it as the sun that's shining. It's rays of truth, of love, of unconditional love. But the sun has now been told to own what it creates. And so the sun in its reflection goes, shit, I like everything I've created. I want to keep it all for me. So all the rays now turn back on self. And so where the sun once was is now nothing, just darkness, because the self-centeredness shut down everything of its unconditional light. And so everything in relationship to it died. So in the same way, think of the sun as us. And when we become self-centered and we fall for the lie, we become disconnected from reality, because now we're thinking about what's in it for me. I, me, mine, own. And these are all the compelling emotional programs in between our ears. We are illuminating and we're creating that I am reality, because I am that. I am that. And we're projecting who we think we are there. So a lot of people come here still projecting and explain freedom and explain consciousness. Some explain Buddha tantric rituals, some kind of guided meditation, all this stuff. But it's fucking bullshit, because they are self-centered, because the trauma shut them down. Because they're holding on, believing this is who I am now. I form my reality out of this, because they were so destroyed from so young that they can't actually be who they really are. So imagine the son receiving a birthday card from Galaxy 476322Y, and the son's reading going, oh, listen, mate, we've got a party on next week. We'd like you to come over and visit us. And the son writes back, yeah, man, we're coming. I'm coming. And so the son turns around to Earth and man and says, guys, look, I've been invited to a party, but look, I'll be back in 3 days. All right? Don't worry, I won't be gone long. Bye. And off it goes. And everything in relationship to the son now is dead. Right? Now that's what happens to us when we're self-centered. And we call ourselves mother and father, uncle and auntie, brother and sister. We call ourselves workers and fucking laborers and fucking politicians and fucking Freemasons. We're all fucking idiots, totally fucking stupid, because we are so shut down from fucking reality. We don't want to fucking see it.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
fucking
what
anger.
happened.
It's anger, because this denial of love, this denial, this rejection of reality is so deeply ingrained that if we don't wake up, the reflection that we fall in love to, this illumination, is what has us swimming, because it's all we see. We see the illusion, and we love it so much. And so we'll be seduced, just like those Cambodians, because the trauma is so much.
It's comfortable too, and people like it because it's comfortable, a little comfort zone, not get out too much, not to change, because it implies a lot of change when you start getting out of this madness. No? So it play. First of all, you need to do a big introspection on yourself when you realize all the lies and all the fucking bullshit in the world. It takes a lot of.
Imagine an ant colony. And someone comes to the ant colony and says, guy's got a new program for all of you. We want you to give up everything that makes you an ant. We're going to give you a new program called an Divide You All. We'll give you each an apartment. We're gonna break you down. And all the ants go, wow, this is interesting. Yeah, we'll do that. And so all the ants become educated into becoming these individuals, and each one goes off to be a politician, a scientist, an astrophysicist, a school teacher, or whatever, labourer, and all the ants have all forgotten who they really are, and no one's now taking care of the reality of the ant world. And so the whole ant world and all its little ones and the elderly all not been taken care of anymore, because everyone's so fucking caught up in their bullshit and all their nonsense. The whole world collapses until nothing's there. And all the ants go with it. No matter where they are, they'll go with it. And this is what's happened to every Freemasons, like David Bottrell, and all these fucking lies and ACAT and everywhere else. They're all fucking gone. And it wouldn't matter what they got. They think they've got power and control, but they've got fucking nothing. They've got absolutely nothing.
We are one of the hands that walk away from the crew, so we're gonna do our own thing.
We're beginning the real work, man. The real work to break out of this is going to come from all the brothers and sisters prepared to give up all that selflessness, all that selfishness, and give from their life force energy the creation of a living kingdom paradise, and enter into it with our hard work. because we have to fix all the damage we've done and set a living example how to live without being self-centered anymore. So the real work is the bridge we cross, which is the mudroom that we create. If you read the steps of Kindle, it's this mudroom. And the mudroom is confronting, which is what we do. We smash each other, man. We fucking argue the cows come home, both of us, because until we have routed out everything that's making a mess of our real life and making a mess of reality, and we're not driven by fantasy anymore. So this is what happens to me all the time, because I'm waking up so much, and I'm going, the responsibility. Oh my God, I can see them all around asleep. Oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? I just go to the fucking basement and get so fucking hit in them. What the fuck? Wake up! Fucking wake up! Wake up! I can't rescue them, but I can't lie to them. And my conscience can't say I can't ignore you, because I'm not going to be that sun that runs away from reality. I've got to shine, and shine more brightly, and create a living paradise. So though I might swear and say all these fuck words that are, that are fucked about these people who are lying to you, messing with your fucking heads, I'm showing you the beauty and the magnificence, because that's what becomes of us who really wake up. We set a living example. But there's no one to follow. We're not leaders. We're co-creators of the living paradise of man. If we change the dream, we change everything. Everything gets fixed, because we are that. We set the life of the dream of motion, and everywhere we are. This is something we say in our work. The bird is not defined by the bird. The bird is not defined by the explanation of the bird. The bird is defined by everything of creation that makes the bird what the bird is. Because without it, there'd be no bird. It's the same with us. Without the whole of the dream of life, which we're supposed to be raised up by, when children are brought up by nature, the whole of the dream of life expands for their dream. And they take on the whole of the dream of life, because they're not shut down. They're not that sun that went to galaxy 47632Y. They're not the sun that turned rays back on self to become self-centered. They're not the ants in that ant colony that have been shut down by the individual program. They're a man, awake, without being awake. They're not being told to be awake. They already are. So
Bender says something here very interesting. Again, it says Lucifer is man, God is man, free will is always with us. The collective consciousness is creation.
Exactly. If we dream it beautifully without another man in the head, relying on those Luciferic images to project the illumination. This is what Michael Tallange and all these other idiots like David Icke rely on. They're fucking idiots, these people. Oh, they won't give you full disclosure. They have no remedy to get you out of this. They keep you trapped in it.
Yeah.
And that's why we do this video. And, share it out. Give it to your friends.
Oh, yeah.
Copy when it's put up. Circulate it. Not for us. Tell everyone, don't worship us. Forget us. Blank us out. Blank our name. Forget us. We don't even exist. But make sense of your own reality. And stop supporting a slave system and relying on slaves to continue perpetuating a slave system. Because the real remedy is no slavery, no broken man. You don't rely on a broken down man to get your freedom. Your freedom comes from you being free. You be the fucking man. And you carry the weight of that responsibility. Stop passing the buck and blaming, oh, that pain in my back, oh, that over there, the way he looked at me, oh, that, how many, you come up with some of those, you're good at these. How many ways we fucking make excuses? It's staggering the amount of excuses we come up with to pass the buck, pass the buck, pass the buck, pass the buck, cop out, cop out. That again is those Cambodians after the trauma of Pol Pot. Please rescue us from this trauma. It's too much. I don't know how to take responsibility for my life. Yeah. And you can't save that kind of man, because that's a human. It's a type of man, but it's not a man.
No, it's a human. Yeah.
Yes. When you desecrate nature and you make a lolly with a bit of poison, that isn't real.
And it makes me laugh when I go also on Facebook and I saw those pages, Collective Evolution and that, and I see a post and they tell you and they say, "Don't worry, you're just human." I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're all.
That's evolution. And these people claim to be conscious.
All is good. All is good. We're all infallible. Let me tell you, we all have the capacity to destroy our soul and commit suicide, because we have free will. Yeah. And if people don't wake up, what we're showing you is this spiritual suicide in practice, because that is the system before our eyes. Because that's what we're practicing. Practicing the ritual of death. Death to our soul. Death to sense. Death to consciousness. Because earth is sense, is sensory. Right? Unconsciousness is sense. Anti-life is sense. Because anti-life is death, is all that, right? That's what the Antichrist is. Christ is sense. Christ is consciousness. But it can't be explained. You can't educate it. You can't teach it. You can only inspire it by being it and let others from observation work it out in their unique original way so they can be an original man. So they're not under the ABC of the sun, running into another world or being self-centered or the ant colony, all that crap. So why we hash on a bit of this. Everyone who's going to come to this got to go through the mudroom, right? And the mudroom, in Australia, we call it the mudroom in the steps of kingdom. Kingdom without the G. There's no G in it. It's kin, us,
Kin.
claim, intention. Not dumb. We're not dumb. Kin dumb or free dumb. We're not dumb. Free to be dumb. We are the true intent. Get behind the language. The true intent is we work, co-create a living dream because each of us is accountable, responsible. And when we are selfless, and there's nothing in it for I, me, mine anymore, we're capable of the extraordinary. While there's still an I, me, mine in it, there's always a what's in it for me, we're fucked, man. And the mudroom is that confrontation. We come in with baseball bats and we fucking hammer hard. Because if you want to wake up, you've got to snap out of this shit. If you don't snap out of this shit, you will not take responsibility for being a living man and create a living paradise. And you'll be a threat to our children. You'll be a threat to everything else that lives, that wants that responsibility, because you're setting the example of passing the buck to allow death to spread amongst us. Because that's all we're doing when we accept the lie of self-centeredness. Because who we are is already existent. We don't have to sit there and hold on. Everything we got is already there. All the time we're talking, we're still breathing, aren't we? The air didn't disappear. We still got everything we need. The sun's still shining. Everything of nature's still here. The truth has not departed us. But the fantasy made us depart reality. And during the time of our fallen state, because we've fallen into fantasy and illusion and delusion, because that's what the system is, it's just fantasy, we're committing suicide to reality. We're withdrawing from responsibility into limited responsibility because we're now blaming. We have a foe. We have something else to blame. And the Freemasons rely on this shit. They need you to have someone to blame. Oh, it's the Illuminati. Oh, it's the Rothschilds. It's the Rockefellers. But we're the fucking problem because we use their fucking money. We use their bloody system. We use their labor. We use their services. We use their languages. We use everything. We're the fucking problem. So stop using it.
Exactly.
Drop it. That's why I dropped the blame. I pulled out. Because I wanted to not, I don't want to feed this. I'm still compromised because my wife and my children are compromised. I'm not out of the woods yet because and everyone else is still trapped. When all my brothers are free, I'm free. So our goal is to create a living paradise where everyone around us is free, because then we've got it. If everyone around us is slaves, we're in fucking hell. So I can't run around thinking I'm conscious and I'm free when all around me is fucking hell. The Dalai Lama says to find peace in your environment, you must first find peace within, meaning shut down, be in a state of apathy, be in denial, leave it to my mates to maintain all the power and control. Do what David Icke says, your remedy, do it from the
obvious.
What from the fucking heart? What fucking heart? If you've been brainwashed and all you fucking know is being brainwashed, what fucking heart have you got? Because all you've got is the background of all the brainwashing to default to, because David Icke defaulted to the bullshit. He's made his bed with the bullshit. You believe that bullshit. You default to that bullshit. And everything is bullshit. So you've got fucking nothing. You got nothing but a lie. Yeah. So you come to Kingdom, you come with a fucking shovel and a pick, you come to work your ass off, because you're going to have to work your way out of this, because it's not going to fall in your lap. The freedom will not fall in your lap. You're going to have to change it and build a way of life for everyone else to benefit. So we raise each other up. We are the wind under each other's wings. And there's nothing in it for I. The I am has died. We killed it because we've already got it all. We're already breathing. Who we are already exists. Why do we doubt it?
It's like believing in yourself, and it's like believing in yourself. Why do I have to believe in myself? Like Jabba told me, he said, you don't need to believe in yourself. He said, pinch yourself, you'll see you're alive. From that moment, I stopped believing in myself.
The self is the mind, and the mind, you can't cut open head and find the mind. And the intellect is the mind. Lucifer is the mind, is the self, is the person, is the Strawman, is the explanation, the instruction. It's a fantasy. You can't go and visit the explanation. Hello, ABC 123. Where in the forest can you go and visit ABC 123? Or everything that comes out of ABC? Where are the children of ABC 123 playing? Where are the ancestors of ABC 123 buried? You can't find it. Because there's no self, there's no I. That is the illumination. That's the light of the moon, of the dark side. That's the man's intent to control you through fantasy.
Yeah.
To make you believe that you have to hang out for, you have to believe in uncertainty. You have to believe in that no one cares about you really. So you have to cling and fight for yourself. So I've got to go to work because no one else is going to be there for me. Everyone's broken down as those ants in the ant colony. Everyone's that sun that kept all the rays for self because everything's what's in it for me now. It's mine. Yeah. Unless you overcome all this, overcome Buddha, Allah, consciousness, all the masonry bullshit, all the occult esoterics, all the channeling, everything that's come in you, every fucking thought in you, if you don't conquer this thing and stop, let it rule you, you're gone. You're dying. You truly are dying.
Oh, yeah. Spiritual, eh? That's what he said, Jabba. He said, Yannick, everything that's spiritual, you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
So
because it's an.
That was a very, very nice, guys. I really appreciate. Like I said, we extended a little bit, but it's okay. I could extend it for 6 hours, but I know people won't watch it for 6 hours, so that's why I said we'll break it down in 2 hours piece. I think it's pretty good. But yeah, I learned a lot of stuff again tonight. I'm gonna be like taking a couple hours to take it in. I'm gonna rewatch it again, probably 2 times, but because you've said a lot of stuff, and I'm sure a lot of people can agree with me now on what I'm saying, and a lot of people share my feeling. I'm sure I'm really like, yeah, it's. I feel great. I learned a lot of stuff tonight, and I give thanks.
Life is a no-harm path. That's all we need.
Yeah, that's it. Rise and shine. That's my motto. I say all the time. Rise and shine to the occasion.
All power to man, all disempower to human.
That's it. We're out. Jeanice again for the Tru-Mon Show.
Woo!
Ciao, everybody.
Woo! We're
That's
leaving
it.